Good morning, everybody, and welcome along to a fantastic scene and a brilliant day as we start a new history chapter for the Circuit de la Sarthe and Le Mans and endurance racing, because for the first time ever we have the Le Mans Classic Legend event here in 2026. Le Mans Classic becomes an annual race weekend. It will be back to heritage next weekend, but for now we are concentrating over the next 2 days on some of the cars that we've never seen here before. Some we have, but they've been integrated into full plateaus, full grids, rather than being invitational classes. And we've got some brand new cars for you to see as well in terms of the Le Mans Classic. But of course they all have a heritage that involves the Grand Prix d'Endurance here at the Circuit de la Sarthe. A very good morning from Bruce Jones, from Andrew Marriott, and from me, John Hindhaugh. As you can see, the weather is glorious, and as you can also see, and if you were with us for the Le Mans 24 Hours earlier in the year, in mid-June, there's not been a lot of rain since then. It has been absolutely scorching weather. In fact, speaking to our French families and friends in the area of the Le Mans circuit, if we had to have the Le Mans 24 Hours the following weekend to when it happened, it probably wouldn't have happened. The temperatures were up in the 40s Celsius, and in the sunshine it was over 50. It's been an incredible dry and hot spell. We've got for you a couple of sessions today, and then a longer session for you tomorrow that will bring you a taste of everything that is here. We're on the full 8.5 mile circuit, and at the moment the sunshine is still, or the sun is still rising behind the grandstand on the Classic front straight. A temperature today of somewhere between 32, 33 degrees Celsius, well up into the late 80s, early 90s in the Fahrenheit scale. There are, despite the empty grandstands at the moment, a lot of people here, and a lot of British people here as well. When we drove down in our BMW M5 Touring, thanks to BMW UK, who are a partner, BMW partner of this event, and lots of lovely BMWs running VIPs around, we were inundated with British cars on the way down the péage. So something new for us to get our teeth into. Bruce, this is the first time that we've had a change in the format for Le Mans Classic since its inception a quarter of a century ago, and such has been the demand and the rise of historic and classic racing that it has warranted making this effectively a separate event.
We've moved closer to time. People get older, cars get older, and the fans become younger. Let's paraphrase that. Basically, we need some more modern machinery to slot on the end of what we've had before here at the Le Mans Classic. And this year has been the first full year in which GT3 is considered a historic category, which comes as a bit of a shock to some drivers who aren't yet 40 years old, and they go, I raced in that at the start of my career. But the grids are enormous, been one of the global successes. Anywhere in the world there seems to be a GT3 championship of some sort, and of course it's the subjunct to the hypercars in the Le Mans 24 Hours in the World Championship. So that will be the first race that kicks off today, and that will be coming fairly soon indeed. But the scene is set.
41 cars in that plateau, on that grid, that we'll see in a few moments' time for that particular race. Andrew, that is not all that's new. We've still got some invitational classes as well, of which more as the day progresses. There'll be a lot of people staying up late in the United States for the return of NASCAR to Le Mans and the Circuit de la Sarthe 50 years after two cars were sent over here. We've got a splendid grid courtesy of IMSA's HSR coming later on today. We'll have two of their races over the weekend. What I really like, though, is that us who are used to what's been happening in the past, the numbers of the grid, the plateau numbers that we have here, coincide. They have remained the same from what it would have been had we put it all together in previous years.
Absolutely right. Now we've got 5 of the plateaus here. They race 3 times over the 24 hours. They get 3 45-minute races, and it's all about the aggregate. It's not about putting in 1 good race or even winning 2. It's about having 3 good races, a bit like golf. You've got to have 4
3
good
rounds. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all about that, and things happen in the night. So that's very interesting. We'll be following all that, and of course also we've got 5 plateaus. Last year we had 6. Plateau 6 has moved up into this more modern section. It's all very generational, this, isn't it? So when I was a kid and I followed Le Mans, my hero cars were Jaguar D-Tubs. Now, next year, you're going to be able to see those racing.
So next year, it's plateaus 1 to 5 are back, and with some invitational classes as well.
Exactly. And here we've got... Basically, the split is at about 1974, 1975, and we're going all the way up to cars that are only 12 or 13 years old. I mean, in the top Plateau 10, we're going to see some sensational machines. We're going to see those Peugeot diesels, which won here. We're going to see the Lola Aston Martins, which make a stunning noise. So just interest all the way along. But I think it's a great thing to do to move up these generations. As I said, I like D-types, but of course, other people, GT40 was the big thing for them. And then for you, John, you first came
Porsches and looking at the Silk Jaguars and those cars going through the late 80s into the early 90s. The format hasn't changed in 25 years, so adding those on. So the plateaus that we talk about today, when we talk about plateaus, that's the French word for grid, effectively. So 7, 8, 9 and 10 are the brand new plateaus. 6 we've seen here before in the traditional version of this event.
And they've done something very clever. Of course, they've made Group C, which was always one of the most successful groups, invitational races, if you will, has become a group. Now, at the moment, there's not some 6, 8 years ago here, there was maybe 30 Group C cars racing and maybe 5 or 6 Jaguars. They all seem to have been parked at the moment, but still, here we've got the best Group C grid of the year. We're coming up now, we're going to start with this GT3 race. This revival section of the cars that started, of course, 20 years ago. This is the biggest grid of these cars that's ever been seen, I think.
The other thing we should mention, Bruce, is that you and I and Andrew, for a couple of seasons, have been working with Peter Auto at their events during the year.
Yes.
This year, Bruce, it is the Le Mans Classic Series. There is actually a championship for most of the grids, most of the cars that we'll see out here and the drivers and teams that we'll see out here. And they've thrown themselves into it as if it was a contemporary championship, because indeed it is a championship.
No, it really is. And a lot of the owner drivers are lucky enough to have cars for various of the categories within the Le Mans Classic Series. So they're quite busy people jumping from Parc Fermé to collect a formation area and going out onto the track. But for me, GT3 has always been a really, really strong category. I've worked in it for a long time with the Blancpain GT Series and then the GT World Challenge, and a lot of these cars, they suddenly sort of strike a chord, and for a lot of people just strange things like, oh, look at the gull wing doors on those Mercedes AMG SLSs and so on, and the engine notes that you've forgotten. But to find this as a historic category, well, time does move on, but it's the ones we've seen already this season. We saw them have a fantastic couple of races at Spa-Francorchamps, another hot race meeting, but the point is well made, John. It's the Le Mans Classic Series across the entire season. Still got some fantastic rounds to come in Paul Ricard, in Estoril, in Imola. But of course, some people particularly want to race at Le Mans. There's an R Motorsport Aston Martin, reinvigorated, back racing again. But I tell you what, let us head down to get the feel of the pit lane, and our man who will be doing the hard kilometres in the heat. His name is Vincent Franssen, and he will introduce himself right now.
Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, bonjour, bienvenue sur le circuit des 24 heures du Mans, le Mans Classic Legend, nouveau concept bien sûr. Bien, on ne va pas changer les habitudes au niveau de Peter Otto et de la Le Mans Classic Series. On va se retrouver sur l'ensemble du week-end ici dans la pit lane. On va tout vous expliquer sur ce qui se passe, les voitures qui ont des problèmes, pourquoi elles ont des problèmes, les commentaires des pilotes, comment ça se passe sur ce circuit des 24 heures bien évidemment. Vous saurez tout, maximum d'interviews et maximum d'informations. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on the circuit of the 24 hours of Le Mans. As usual, by Peter Otto for the Le Mans Classic Series. We'll be in the pits during the whole weekend, doing many interviews, of course. You will know everything about the cars, about some problems with some cars, of course, and I think that it will be absolutely great.
Well, thanks very much, Vincent. He really does get his man. He's a great pits reporter, so we look forward to those interviews. This is a 50-minute race coming up, one pit stop. 6 of the drivers, or the team drivers, are considered pros, and we think that they will be stopping longer in the pits, so we have to factor that in.
Yeah,
why some of the pros are pros and some of the AMs are not pros, I'm not quite sure, but we won't go into that any further.
It is a standard practice, isn't it, Bruce, to balance out. We talk about balance of performance in GT3 a lot, and in racing around the world. The balance of performance here is also applied to the drivers to make it a little more of a level playing field. It also makes it more entertaining for us to see some of the pros having to drive back through the field, Bruce.
Well, let's take a look at the grid here. We've got a Ferrari on pole position. Jean-Luc Bobelic alongside Heiko Neumann, BMW, Mercedes, then moving on down. This is row 3. Phil Quaife, look for him going forward. And Will Nuttall, who shares with Stefan Jobstal. A couple of Ferraris on row number 4. Benjamin Ricci in one of them. And 4 GTs, they always caught the eye. Philippe Gioc is the better placed of those, and they look fantastic. BMW Z4s, they were always very popular. Made the best sound in the entire paddock in the early days of GT3 racing. There's the second Ford. Celia Martin, all-female crew, car number 40. Look out for that.
And of course, her Iron Dame's teammate, Rahel Fry, drove that car in period, or at least a car like that in period.
Yeah, for the Maytech team. Yeah. Lamborghinis often catch the eye, but a lot of people here, particularly the British fans, they do like the Aston Martins. Plenty of those. Janos Santa down around mid-grid. Quite a few drivers up from the Southern Hemisphere as well. So look out for those. They make an entire, well, their winter, our summer. They come and race at Spa, they come and race here. What's not to like?
Nice to see some of the names from the period as well. Tony Seiler is back. We'll see him in some of the Porsche races earlier on. It was Jonathan Mitchell and Alvaro Parent on row 2. And Dario Franchitti in the Ferrari was hoping for a Le Mans entry actually this year and got onto the reserve list. He'll be starting on row 4 in the number 92 Pro-Am Ferrari 458 GT3 Evo. And still they come. 41 cars on this grid in the early morning light, which looks absolutely glorious. We drove our BMW Touring around the track on Thursday when we arrived. It is a mark of how little precipitation there has been, Andrew, that quite a lot of the rubber from the Le Mans 24 hours was still laid on the track, and indeed some of the witness marks down towards Indianapolis.
Oh, Porsche curves. We saw that.
We saw big those. One at Porsche curves.
Yeah, the swapped end had gone into the barrier. You could still see where the car had gone into the barrier. But yes, I mean, this track has already had a bit of rubber down this morning because I was out there a few moments ago and there was about 1,000 people got to drive their cars around. You can actually buy to drive the track before the start of the racing, and there was all sorts of interesting machines there. Nearly most of them were French, but there was a lot of British, and strange enough, not many other nationalities. Only a couple of German people have come for this, but this is huge for the British fans.
Aside from what we'll see on the track, if you're thinking to yourself, I really should have been here, the answer is yes, you really should have been here, because aside from what goes on the track, Bruce, this is probably the biggest car club show in France and possibly the world.
I would think so. There are so many, and yesterday I was absolutely gutted. I couldn't find time to go and see the club for the law enforcement cars, the American law enforcement cars of northern France. John was itching to get up there. But most of those cars will get out onto the track at some stage.
Yes.
But they literally, every group appears to have 50 cars. It's absolutely phenomenal.
I didn't have time to look at the Turners. There's about 8 Turners. I own a Turner. You probably don't even know what it is.
I do.
But 8 of those cars from Wolverhampton originally.
I don't know how Darren had the time to build them, to be honest. All his
He did, of course. Darren Turner got a Turner because I told him about Turner sports cars. He'd no idea before that. And he raced it very successfully at Goodwood for a while. He sold it now.
So coming around the final part of the circuit under clear blue skies, this might be the nicest conditions actually for driving. It's going to get extremely hot later on today as the Jean-Luc Bourblic comes around. He is effectively the safety car when the BMW Touring pulls in. Heike Neumann in the Mercedes. Lovely to see the Mercedes back again. It's an absolutely classic shape. I saw one on the road the other day, and I wasn't particularly enamoured of them in period, but this one was a dark red colour, and I thought, ooh, how did I not like those in period? They look fantastic. The R8, which has always looked great and looks even, I think, looks even better now than it did in period. And of course, the little Aston Martin Vantage, the 007, the blue car. That's Jonathan Mitchell. With the V12 engine. The BMW Touring will pull off to one side as it comes through the first part of the Porsche curves, and then we'll let them go. Watch out for Phil Quaife in the 997 GT3R. That's the darker coloured car a little bit further back. And Dario Franchitti will be right in there as well in the Pastorelli Classic Cars 458 GT3 Evo Ferrari. Stand by for action, ladies and gentlemen. Our first race in the new era, the Le Mans Classic Legends for 2026, the GT3 Revival, 41 cars coming to the line as the lights go out and we are racing at Les Arts. 50 minutes on the clock as they come up to the first corner, and already from row number 3, Phil Quaife is trying to make a move down the inside in the Porsche as they go up to the Dunlop curve and under the Goodyear Bridge. And yes, that is the right two names for that. And we've already had a spinner. It's one of the Audis from the midfield, and there was a clash partly in that midfield there, but the pole sitter has been usurped, and it's Heiko Neumann who leads down through the Forest S's for the first time, Bruce.
I kept my eyes on Jonathan Mitchell in that V12 Vantage. I thought he'd make a move. He's gone from 4th into 2nd. There he is, 007. And Alvaro Parent in that leopard livery Audi has gone back one position to 4th overall. Here's our spinners. Spinners aren't winners, and you can see
Christoph von Oenhuizen in the number 45 Audi, the lighter coloured car. He started in 14th position, I think.
That's a father and son outfit, that, and they have had quite a lot of success with that car, so that's a big no-no for them. But Mitchell's one of the men to watch for. Our pole sitter, the guy who set the time, Jerome Policand, will get in 2nd. About half the field have got a 2nd driver, and the rest, of course, driving singly.
Heck of a start by the Porsche of Phil Quaife. We thought he'd be quick, but he's right up there hassling the leaders. I apologise if it was the 46, not the 45, so it was the Pyro Motorsport.
Yes.
Jeff Smith's
Audi car. The Oenhuizens are in a BMW.
Oh, are they in a BMW?
What's happened is that our pole starter, Jean-Luc Bourblic, who's sharing with Jerome Policon, as you mentioned, he's dropped back to about 5th position. But he's been driving these cars since GT3. Well, he started in 2011 in GT3. He's almost always been in Ferrari, so he's been caught out. But Heiko Neumann races a lot with the Gullwing, but he's about to be passed. Jonathan Mitchell's fallen back to 3rd place. Alvaro Parent is right under his rear wing in that black and aquamarine car, but the moves are coming. So the first 5 have really made a break, and with Jeff Smith having that spin from around 10th or 12th place in the order, you know, the rest of the pack has been pulled further back, but this is classic Le Mans slipstreaming.
And the Lamborghini Gallardo LP600, the Anderson Racing Team, Marcus Anderson, was, I think, the car that made contact with the Audi. That has been pulled to a safe position as there's a battle for the lead and a spun Corvette.
That's the Moser Seiler, a couple of Seiler Racing runs a couple of the Corvettes. This is the white and silver one, unfortunately going nowhere faster. But look, this is a diamond formation of our top 4 with Heiko Neumann in his SLS just in front.
Donny Henry in the Scott Sport number 15 Callaway. It's of course Corvette officially weren't building GT3 cars at that stage. Side by side for the lead then. Down through Indianapolis, that highly banked left-hand corner, easy to forget until you actually take a road car around there, what it's like. Then onto the short chute, down to Arnage, which is now not part of the public road and was still covered in tyre detritus from the Le Mans 24 Hours when we were down there on Thursday. One of my favourite spots, up over the rise and now climbing gently into the Porsche curves, and the big engine of the Mercedes AMG turning right-handed into there. Oh good, the refuge truck that was stuck in the gravel there on Thursday night has been moved. I think it probably only got out of there yesterday, so I think it was so buried deep into it. And here comes the Audi in that almost Leighton House flash colours, isn't it? It reminds you of that Miami blue that they used to run in, which isn't blue at all, of course. And then just lurking in the background, Andrew, the Porsche of Phil Quiff.
Yeah, Phil's certainly a man to watch for. Has been racing for 20 years, fully pro, comes from a family of racers. They even built their own GT car at one time about 20 years ago. And I think Quaid's one to watch for. I think Mitchell's definitely a man to watch for also. But that Mercedes at the front is going so well, isn't it?
It's got the grunt on the straights. It has the ponies.
Yeah, it's it's run by Motor Park, who usually run Formula 3 cars. But I think we're in a position to go right down to the pit lane and get our first interview.
Voilà. Eh bien Vincent, effectivement, sur la piste avec Tony Seiler. J'espère qu'on va pouvoir le retrouver. Voilà. Tony Seiler, one with you, Tony. How is it to be on the Le Mans racetrack with a Callaway Corvette?
It's very nice races for the new series, GT3. I'm very happy. It's very well for drive here in Le Mans with the Corvette. Yeah, it's nice. Thank you.
What about the driving condition this morning? It's going to be a very sunny weekend. I imagine that the best conditions to drive.
Yes, it's very beautiful. We have air, many air in the we have more power. It's fantastic weather. Yes.
Thank you very much, Tony Seiler. Voilà, qui pilote en effet une Callaway Corvette qui était 28e sur la grille de départ, mais l'essentiel c'est bien de participer. Très content bien sûr d'être là et de savoir que les conditions de roulage, grâce à la météo, sont effectivement très bonnes.
The voice of the PA here at Le Mans, Bruno Vandestick, with us again this weekend. Nasty moment for Pierre Hershey in the CMR BMW Z4 GT3. The blue and white number 30 car was just outside the top 20 and did that thing we saw so much at the Le Mans 24, just understeering over the top of the rise before diving into the Red Hill Turk Rouge, Bruce.
It had just become an epidemic. We used to one or two per event, but it became very, very fashionable in June here at Le Mans and still is right now. What we're getting, though, the lead quartet is about to become a quintet. We've still got a Ferrari hanging on the back, but a second Ferrari is coming in the mix, Benjamin Ricci. And by the way, our pole starter fell down from 1st to 13th, Jean-Luc Bobelic. But this lead quartet, again, right, let's talk about the different cars in this group. We've got a Mercedes, from an Audi, from a Porsche, from an Aston Martin. We talked about balanced performance, and the idea all the time in GT3 was that every manufacturer involved, their car should be capable of an identical lap type. They won't deliver it identically around the point of a circuit, and maybe there's some slight artificiality, but the fact was at certain points you had 13 different manufacturers. We were talking about this as we walked the car in the days when you had the cars that were less likely to be there, the Bentley Continental. That was balanced performance into the mix to be against a car that was far smaller, like the Ferrari 458 Italia, and so on and so forth. And that has been one of the rich elements in this series, the category. And always just remember, the AM as well as the pros are very important. Oh dear, that's
Lambo.
Lambo, that's probably Craig Wilkins' car. Yes, it is, number 8. He's been going really well for Scott Speed. Has had a great run at Donington. Other cars in the pits long before they should be.
Had big problems during qualifying and started at the back of the field. So not sure, that obviously has reared its ugly head again, but great racing. Now look at the second place under challenge now.
That was the Schumacher IMSA 997 GT3R, I think, Michel Etuati. In the number 76 car, and we've also lost the Phantom Racing legend Aston which was Pascal Uto into the pits earlier on as well.
This racing on track is every bit as good as when it was contemporary.
Absolutely.
And that is a real accolade for a historic category, because it takes a while for drivers to get accustomed to these cars. A lot of these drivers did drive them in period, but this is just perfect for GT3, for any form of historic racing, to have 4 cars nose to tail, 4 different types of cars. And this is far from finished. As Andrew pointed out, it's a 50-minute race with a pit stop in the middle. This will jumble the order. 2
front-engine cars and 2 rear-engine cars as well.
Well, yeah, a front, a mid, and a rear, in fairness.
Just going back to the Tony Seiler interview, you might have noticed he's got the Shadow Formula 1 team on his race suit. He does race historic Formula 1 cars. Tony has been racing for 40 years, runs a big body shop in Switzerland, and he's been very good in Lola T70s, had a lot of success in Lola 70 GTs. Nice to hear from Tony.
Yeah, and also, of course, he runs, talking earlier about the Le Mans Classic Series, he runs a couple of Lola T70s across the season in that as well. So very, very busy people. Why retire when you can keep racing?
And here's the battle for the lead again, coming out of Tertre Rouge, the Red Hill, side by side, AMG and Porsche, Team Motor Park and Endless. Let's see if that big front engine or front mid-engines Mercedes has still got the horsepower. Phil Quaife pulled out very, very early and he's now got the front of that 997 GT3R in the air, pushing through towards the first chicane, and he can't make it happen. The Audi sits there, but the Mercedes, the AMG, punches out of the corners so well. Phil's right up underneath the back of that Silver Arrows now as they're on the middle section of the Ligne Droite au Nadier, the Mulsanne Straight. There is a Porsche behind there, I promise you, and behind that Alvaro Parent is just watching carefully in the Audi. Here comes Phil, he's on the left-hand side, driver's left-hand side, but he can't get there, he can't get there, he can't get there. He gave it a go, he got up to the quarter panel. This is magnificent stuff, and we've still got 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, and Benjamin Ricci's about to make it a quintet. He's the fastest driver on the track in the Ferrari. He passed Dario Franchitti, he gained that 5th place. Franchitti's about a second, he's about to come from behind the graphic. No, he's probably 2 seconds down. He's falling back, he's in the red Ferrari with the white and green stripe. He's being caught by Will Nuttall, so accustomed to seeing Will in sort of a early 1960s Coopers and late 1950 Coopers, but he's racing with Stefan Jubstal. He is a fantastic racer. Must be just so interesting for him to sort of vault forward effectively 40, 50 years and try modern machinery.
Must be the most modern car he's raced. He's won so many races in that Cooper, prepared by his family business.
That racing. Ferrari is coming up like the clappers.
Down the inside.
Absolutely incredible. Caught the leading 4 and immediately goes up into 4th position. We'll keep an eye on the racing on the track, but problems early on for some of the cars. Let's check in on the pit lane.
Oui, pas très près en effet de l'Aston Martin numéro 62 avec Frans van der Leyen, avec Pascal Uto. Pascal Uto, l'Aston Martin numéro 62 s'est arrêté là juste tout près de nous. Malheureusement, vous n'avez pas pu prendre le volant. Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
Avec le cumul des 2 qualifiés hier, en fait, ça nous plaçait sur une bonne place sur les 2 départs pour aujourd'hui. Donc il y avait pas mal de mecs rapides forcément qui étaient devant, et je pense que voilà, Frans a dû se prendre un petit jeton avec une autre voiture, et malheureusement il a ressenti des vibrations sur la caisse. Donc voilà, on préfère arrêter plutôt que qu'il y ait une pièce mécanique qui casse et puis que ça soit pire pour la suite, quoi. Donc maintenant on verra demain, quoi.
Voilà, merci beaucoup Pascal Uto, vous connaissez tout maintenant du motif de l'arrêt de l'Aston Martin numéro 62, et c'est bien dommage puisque c'est une voiture qui, rappelons-le, avait décroché le 9e temps en qualification.
Bad luck for them with that problem earlier on. That was the 62 car, the 62 Vantage we were talking about early on. Now big changes and a slight mistake there from the Jonathan Mitchell driven Scott Sport Aston Martin V12, the blue car in 3rd. But that 4th place Ferrari has come through so quickly, and we've lost one of the leading runners, Bruce.
Yeah, we've lost Phil Quaife, the one who was looking most likely. He was the one in his Porsche, the Team Tyson car from a period that was challenging that Mercedes at the front, and a real shame for Phil. Car run by Duncan McKellar, and it was the Endless team. See, a lot of these cars are even raced in Japan, you see, so you got this global spread of GT3 cars, and Taisan often used to come over Le Mans. There's the yellow Ferrari that Will Nuttall is showing such good form. He just moved ahead of Dario Franchitti.
Phil Quiff has got that Porsche back to the pitch, the dark blue car, but he's dropped outside of the top 10 now in that number 91 Porsche 997, as the leading 4, as it is back to now, continues on. This is a timed race. They're on lap 4 at the moment. There's the Endless car in the pit lane with the Louvres over the front wheels. The Team Taisan machine looks absolutely quality. Love to see the drivers' names, the old drivers' names on them as well. When we were walking around the paddocks yesterday in the sunshine, it was a bit of a trip down memory lane for us, Bruce, wasn't it? As we were looking at the names of the original drivers, and I like to see that on the cars. But let's see if we can work out what happened in the middle of the pack with that Audi at the. Oh, we got a nudge from behind from one of the BMWs.
Yeah,
that might have been the BMW 45 actually, because they started together.
I think so. And basically, four abreast into a corner tends not to work. Right, that was a very tidy start. Bar that. Frankly, with the field of 41 starters, you're going to have some little bit of a conflagration. But this is the battle for 5th place. So now we've got 2 Ferraris, but we've got Dario Franchitti in the red one behind. But importantly for Will Nuttall and his teammate Stephanie Upstill, the DHL livery car has gone through into 5th, but they are falling away from the breakaway pack. And the breakaway pack still headed by the Mercedes breakaway pack. It's the lead pack. Heiko Neumann still in front. But my money in that group is still on Jonathan Mitchell across the course of 50 minutes in the Aston.
I suppose for younger listeners, we should say that Dario Franchitti is the multi-Indy 500 IndyCar champion.
Good point.
Then injured his back racing and was told he shouldn't have a race again, and then he sort of slowly got back into historic racing. See him at Goodwood winning races now. He's great to have Dario here, and he's a wonderful guy and a huge historian on motor racing. He must be loving racing that Ferrari. You talked about
Jim Clark fan and has a whole load of very impressive Jim Clark memorabilia at his place. Raced in the Dubai 24 Hours in GT3 earlier this year, and as I mentioned earlier on, was part of a team that applied for a slot, and he was going to drive here at the 24 Hours of Le Mans in a contemporary GT3 car. That Dubai 24 Hours was a practice run, if you like, for that. They got onto the reserve list, but didn't get selected by the invitation committee.
John, you talked about the old liveries and all our yesterdays. Look at that blue Aston Martin. That reminds you of something. That's a car that raced in America. TRG, Kevin Buckler's team, remember they were the official Aston Martin owners. That's a car raced by James Davison in period.
Kevin Buckler, the Racers group up at Sonoma,
where they also have a huge winery now.
Well, and Kevin Buckler's wine has been getting better and better and better, and the covers for the corks, and slightly blasphemous talking about California wine whilst we're at the top of the Loire Valley, produces some fantastic wines, and we had some nice Chinon on Thursday night, Cabernet Franc. Anyway, I digress, but Kevin Buckler, the cover on the cork is in the shape of a Porsche Guillaume.
Yes,
his bottles of wine.
And the labels are often motor racing themed.
Absolutely.
Yes, and Kevin himself has been on the podium here at Le Mans in the 24-hour race. Mainly a Porsche man, but he had that year with Aston Martin, and that is one of the cars that came over and now run by Aaron Scott and his team. They're running 10 cars here this weekend.
Yeah, it's lovely to see the expansion of historic racing. Unfortunately, there is a Ferrari where it didn't ought to be, effectively.
That's another car that raced in America, isn't that?
Yeah, and by the way, just put some more names in the patch. Christopher Nygaard, the Danish Aston Martin racer, raced that 007 Aston Martin.
I think that was the 556.
Yeah.
Erwin France car.
Yeah.
That's the 458 Italia, number 556 in the invitational class.
Yeah, that's another father and son, and they've had success in that in series that we've been commentating on earlier in the year.
Got that yellow flag out then at the end of the lap.
Yeah, that car they put off is the ex-Townsend, Bell, Maurizio Mediani, Jeff Siegel and Bill Sweedler car run by Keep Europe, which is another on these giant conglomerates that run I think at some meetings we've been at, I think they were planning to bring 30 different cars down here to keep Europe. So I was speaking to someone the other day, a young mechanic, he said, I really like historic racing. I said, well, work in it. Don't try and chase a modern racing team. Get yourself involved in historic racing. It is huge growth. And just a couple of days ago, we had an announcement that Le Mans Classic Group under Peter Auto have taken another historic category under its ring, but changing second, not quite changing second, but still the Audi of Álvaro Parente, British Formula 3 champion 21 years ago. The Portuguese driver hangs on, but I said my money is on Jonathan Mitchell.
He did have enough of a challenge to make Álvaro go defensively there. Back down to the pit lane, and another Aston in trouble.
Yes, I am with Janos Santa and the 94 Aston Martin stopped in the pit lane. Well, Janos, the question is, what is the problem?
So actually, I've seen a message on the dashboard, a low gearbox pressure, so I immediately came to the pit, and hopefully we can, fix that, and then I can continue. Otherwise, I need to retire.
Okay, so now you know the reason why this 94 Aston Martin is stopped. Voilà, vous connaissez maintenant la nature du problème rencontré par cet Aston Martin numéro 94. Et là, malheureusement, c'est vrai, l'arrêt se prolonge. Je crains que, malheureusement, la course ne soit déjà terminée pour elle, sauf démonstration du contraire, et ça fera toujours plaisir.
So, gearbox issues early for that car, Andrew?
I'm really impressed with the job that Neumann's doing, because he's an amateur driver. He's not one of the pros, but he's had a lot of experience racing these cars, but he's got a full-time job as well. And he's against some really terrific talent there. I mean, people that raced in Formula 3000 and so on. So I'm impressed by him.
Well, what he's doing is he's using, Bruce was talking earlier on about the different strengths of cars at different parts of the track. He's using the strength of that car to his advantage. It's maybe he and the car aren't as quick through the twisty bits, but he's making sure he's getting out, he's getting on their throttle through all those acceleration zones and using the torque of that big engine.
No, entirely so. He's very conversant with Mercedes, but obviously he's been racing them since 2022, and that wasn't the gull-wing door. He's been racing the more modern AMG GT3 Mercedes, but the team Motorpark knows, Timo Rumpfkar's team knows things well. Well, good to see the 556 Ferrari made it back, but just interesting here, the Hungarian racer there, Janos Santa, that he's hopeful to get back out. Of course, this isn't the only race they have here. They've got one tomorrow afternoon, mid-afternoon. So there's a lot of racing to be had, and everybody wants to race at Le Mans. For an awful lot of these drivers, it's their very, very first occasion. So get it fixed, get back out.
Ultimately, will GT3 in this form, will it have to become a full plateau because it's got so much interest?
I think so. And in fact, when the announcements came through about just over a year ago that it would become a historic category, people suddenly remembered they had one in the cupboard at home. The value of these cars doubled overnight. And if you just happen to be someone who is a bit of a GT3 pervert in the nicest way possible, and you had a collection of them, you know, when things fall off, and a Mark VDS car of old, going back around this, leave the mics open. These always sound absolutely amazing.
That's that number 45, the Van Uyhuizen car again, that we think was involved right at the very beginning and done well to get out of the gravel there.
One of the things about the Van Uyhuizen car, this was bought when the drivers were still on the podium at Spa. The Van Uyhuizen said, can we have that one? We'll buy it off you, but they've kept it for the intervening years, and here it is entertaining.
Of course, the story about that car was it runs with a V8 engine. It was never offered with a V8 engine as a road car, so it had to be given a waiver, and all of the other manufacturers were asked, and it had to be a unanimous decision by the manufacturers to allow it to compete. Never had the success it perhaps deserved it, particularly the Nürburgring 24 hours. It always seemed to fall away during the night. But it did at Spa, which in those days was a far bigger GT3 race. And this battle for second place is fantastic. Jonathan Mitchell hasn't given up using all the power he can get from his V12 in the Vantage. But, he's not up against just anybody in Álvaro Parente. Our top driver, Portuguese biggest star since Pedro Lamy. And they are the reason
that Heiko Neumann is still in front is they can't get close to him because they're busy fighting. I really would be interested to see if Benjamin Ricci could get onto their tail as they fight, but he doesn't. He seems to have taken the best out of his tyres in that Ferrari in 4th place. He's falling away.
And just to finish the Z4 story, I spoke to a manufacturer in the States at the time. It was at Road America, and the cars were very quick at Road America, and one of the manufacturer representatives said, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have all said yes to that V8 engine. It wasn't the first time BMW had swapped a V8 into a car that didn't exist. They did it with the M3 in ALMS competition. They did. I remember Gerhard Berger showing us around the alleged road car that allowed them to fit that version of the V8 engine into the then M3 for competition, and it was Joe Bradley. We were all fawning over the carbon fibre and the raised rear end with no seats, and Bradley had his nose in the engine compartment and said, "This is a road car, is it?" And Gerhard, who was head of the mission at the time, said, yeah. Joe said, "Not get very far." Well, why not? It didn't have a radiator fan, so there was no chance of it actually really being one. There was no room for it. We are just coming down to about, in fact, we're just a little away from half distance.
Pit lane open, John.
Pit lane is now open, and we've got some takers already. Bruno is down in the pit lane, and with the number 80 Porsche, the Lion Speed 997 GT3R, and we'll get a word with him in just a moment. Driver change going on, and this looks like a standard stop for Timo Moll and the rest of the team. Let's go out down to Bruno and find out how the pit stops are coming along.
Et avec Jean-Luc Boblic, voilà, qui est descendu de la Ferrari numéro 87 et que l'on va retrouver Jean-Luc avec Jérôme Polican qui vous a relayé. Vous avez le sourire, ça fait plaisir à voir. Racontez-nous ce relais de départ.
Bah écoute, le hasard a fait qu'on s'est retrouvé en pôle suite à une pénalité. Donc écoute, moi je suis en tête du championnat, donc l'objectif c'est de ramener la voiture, ramener des points. Donc j'ai été un peu prudent, et puis c'est la première fois de ma vie que je cours sur le grand circuit, donc il y a quand même encore des appréhensions sur certains virages et certaines zones où je pense que je lâche un peu trop tôt, voilà.
Mais ceci étant, on imagine que ça a dû être magique. Regardez le ciel que l'on a, le soleil est au rendez-vous, le décor naturel, les pins, les hunaudières, ça doit être quelque chose d'exceptionnel.
Effectivement, c'est une sensation, quoi. Je veux dire, la première fois qu'on roule, t'es à 300 au milieu des arbres, c'est une vraie sensation, c'est un vrai plaisir. C'est un truc que j'espère beaucoup de gens pourront vivre.
I'm going to ask you one question in English, dear Jean-Luc, just to say congratulations for your stint with the car, which was on pole position, and then how was it?
Yes, for me, it's surprise, but I make the maximum for Jerome and for the future. You like this championship, and I think we are first into this championship. It's very important for us.
Thank you very much, Jean-Luc Boblic with the number 87 Ferrari. Now, of course, the car is driven by Jérôme Polican.
And he made the point there, gentlemen, about the championship. There are still championship points to be scored here for those who are in the full season. It looked like Martin Wachter in the other side of racing Callaway Corvette. It's not been a good 20-odd minutes for the... He was getting some race tape on the 1, 2, 3 left-hand front as they came in for their stop. The leaders have not yet stopped, Andrew.
No, Polican has dropped to 22nd. Obviously, he was the fastest man in practice. Interesting to see how far he can get the car up the field. But quick shout out for one of our leading British drivers, Nick Padmore. He's running just in the top 10 in that Audi. Nick, huge success in Formula One, historic Formula One cars. He's won the championship 3 times, the Thoroughbred Grand Prix Championship. So Nick's a guy to watch for. Will Nuttall's still up there. Dario's still up there. But most of the leaders are coming in. Mitchell is in already.
Yeah, that was the point I was about to make. You may notice 3 has become 2. So Jonathan Mitchell is tired of trying to pass the Audi that's in second place of Alvaro Perret. Could be a master stroke from him. He's one of the drivers who's going solo, though, so no secondary driver getting into his car. There's the X1 Ryan McLaren with that wonderful livery. It raced at the Baku street race long before the Grand Prix was in Azerbaijan, and it was a bit scratchy, but GT3 went across. Oh dear, this is the von Oeynhausen car smoking away. You can see that
flat to the left.
The flat of the left rear.
I suspect that was from the gravelly moment or the earlier contact. But that car was very sideways through the gravel. The livery of the Mark VDS still continuing in motorcycling for a while after they terminated their work on 4 wheels and success on 2 and 4 wheels.
When talking about VDS, we ought to point out it's the Van der Straten family team, and in the 60s in particular, then into the 70s, they really put their name and money behind an awful lot of top-level racing. Single-seaters, tick. Sports cars, most definitely.
Formula 5000 was a big thing for them. There's a replay of that very gravelly moment, and that was the end result.
Yeah.
Flat left rear.
Tyres, Pirelli tyres going sideways through gravel, not recommended on that. Dario and Jonathan Mitchell have both done their pit stops and re-fired. That BMW had got up to the top 5 but had not yet stopped. Now here, this is a crucial point of the race. Alvaro Parent with a bit of damage actually on the right front of that car. That must have just happened. That was coming into the pit lane. He's hit the back of the leader.
Oh!
He's absolutely nailed the leader coming into the pit lane. Oh my goodness me.
Let's put the leader out, I'm sure.
Well, he hasn't come into the pit lane. The motor park, Heiko Neumann, has just now come into the pits, but with damage to the left rear and absolutely nailed as they were coming into the slow zone for the pit lane.
Surely Perrin get a big penalty for that.
Well,
I think this going all the way of Jonathan Mitchell now, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, that is really quite heavy damage to the back. But you know what, I'm about to say something that's really sort of counterculture. That was Parent being a professional. He was using the last inch of racing at the speed he could. And unfortunately, Heiko Neumann just being a little bit cautious. You know, the blame is totally attached to Parent there. But, you know, sometimes you have to slightly change the chip you've got.
Don't forget as well, you're going to keep these Pirelli tyres on all the way through. Actually, are they running on Pirellis? I was looking at them the other day. Actually, they've got the old Pirelli stickers on.
Yeah, they are
from the time. But the sidewalls, I'll have another look actually. But they are going to keep these racing tyres on all the way through the race. It's not as if you can absolutely rip in and then jump on the, I was going to say the middle pedal there, the brake pedal. 2-pedal cars for the most part. So this is going to be absolutely grist to the mill for the Aston Martin V12 Scott Sport Jonathan Mitchell car. Also having completed their pit stop is the Barwell Motorsport Z4, the number 79, Peter Molsdale in that car. Let's keep an eye out for that one. And Eric Debard for the Debard Automobile Maytech, the Ford GT. Now they've all made their pit stop. Out goes the, oh no, I'm not sure that was, out goes the AMG. Meantime, side-by-side action, the delayed Ferrari from earlier on that was in the wall. That's the 556 Erwin France Equipe Europe car. And now, which Porsche is that he's gone through? That I think was that's one of the triple numbered cars, so it'll be the 997, won't it? The 911 rather, the Speed Motor Sport Management, the Christian Kuhn 997 GT3R.
And all this has put Ben Rickey into the lead from Mitchell. But he may be still, he's on his outlap.
Yeah,
on the 123 Corvette has gone round.
You just don't want to be driving a Corvette today, do you?
That's a Tony Seiler car. It's one of Tony Seiler's
That's
cars.
the Vactor car, Martin Vactor car that had had some damage to the left front already. We saw that getting taped up in the pit lane, and the Spider-Man 2 car's just gone past it.
Yeah, that's Dr. Afshin Fatemi. Absolutely fantastic race delivery on that, and Our German doctor
plastic surgeon, indeed.
Exactly, has a fantastic stable of cars. But I love these cars that have commemorative liveries and commemoration that lives on. And for Dr. Afshin, for a lot of these drivers, it's their first chance to really step up and drive a modern car. Because though this is a historic series, you know, compared to what they've been racing in the past, this is something very new. A lot of them are really getting to rather like it, I think.
Yeah, you've got Polycan out there now who's done Le Mans 13 times, and somebody like Jonathan Mitchell, I'm sure he hasn't been here before, so he's finding what a magnificent track it is.
Ricci is leading.
Yes.
Ricci is leading in the Ferrari as he comes to the Mulsanne right-hander, all resurfaced before the 24-hour race this year, that run down to that point of the circuit, and I reckon he's got about 9 seconds on Jonathan Mitchell in the Aston in second. It'll be a toss-up, I reckon, as to whether Heiko Neumann and the damaged Mercedes that was going so well earlier on. He has done a sub-4-minute lap, and there's only a couple of cars out there that have, him and Alvaro Parent actually, who are having the battle for the lead. That car has not rejoined. Actually, neither is Dario Franchitti's. That car was shown. No, he's gone round and come back in again. Dario, he was definitely out on the track. So that's an issue for Dario. Right, back down to the pit lane, and Bruno.
Yes, I am with Mark Cole, who was ready to drive the number 47 Audi. But unfortunately, Mark, welcome to you. Alvaro Parente had a contact with the Mercedes. Unfortunately, game over for this morning.
Yeah, it's very sad, really. Alvaro did a fantastic job. Obviously, he's a world-class driver, and it looks like there's been some contact between him and the Mercedes. I don't know the details behind it yet. But unfortunately, I was about to hop in the car to drive, and they've too much damage, so I won't get to do this. We were out, basically. It's a shame. But Alvaro did a great job while it lasted, yeah.
Yes, as you say, it's a shame because the car is great, the performance is here, and I should say that the weather conditions were ideal this morning to drive on the Le Mans racetrack.
You're absolutely right. It's a great temperature, early morning, good for lap times. For myself, I've only ever driven 6 laps of this circuit ever in my life, so I was looking forward to the second stint, but hey-ho, we have the speed, but we're out now, and that's not good for the championship.
Thank you, Mark. I hope that the weekend is not finished for you yet. It's only Saturday morning, but I invite you to come with me and look at the damages at the front of this Audi, the consequences of the contact with the Mercedes.
It's interesting, it's bodywork damage, but obviously, you know, they're not going to replace that in the pit lane. Again, championship mentioned for this car. Unlike a Porsche that has the radiators, the cars of this era has the radiators in the front. The Audi's actually in the radiators in the middle. So I don't think that's anything other than cosmetic, but just too much damage there, Andrew, to get it back out on the track.
Absolutely right. What I'm watching, though, is Jonathan Mitchell is closing in on the leader. He's taking second and a half a lap now out of Ricky. So interesting to see when he closes up. The gap was 8 seconds, now 6.3.
And it's down to under 14 minutes to go. Good morning if you are joining us at the first ever Le Mans Classic Legend here at the Le Mans circuit. 2026 bringing us something brand new and rather appropriate, Bruce Jones, that we're kicking off with the newest cars that have been brought into this Le Mans Classic Legend fold. Cars that until just a couple of years ago, of course, weren't eligible for the full 24 hours. We saw them on the road to Le Mans and the Michelin Le Mans Cup, Bruce. There were questions, and I have to put my hand up and say I wondered whether the GT3s of 2 or 3 years ago would be up to the job of the 24 hours, but my goodness, they've added something, and absolutely right that these cars now should be brought into the Classic fold.
Yeah, no, entirely. I've always been a big fan of GT3. I know we've been almost in opposing ends of the spectrum, but what I love is now seeing cars that really blink. Was it that long ago? Just seeing the Black Bull liveried Barwell Motorsport entered BMW British GT Championship winning car not so long ago. I remember being at Goodwood and talking to Ollie Bright. He said, that was my car. I raced a car that is now a historic car. He seemed distraught. But anyhow, there it is. And Peter Mullsdale's going very nicely in 4th place overall. In fact, what we have at the moment is cars from the AM category, because they had the shorter pit stops, all compared to the Pram cars, running in the first 5 positions. So it's Ben Ricci being caught all the time by Jonathan Mitchell. Heiko Neumann, who led the early stages in his, we're looking at it now, the slightly battered tail end of his car. Remember, that was whacked by Arvo Parent. That's in 3rd place. But Peter Mullsdale is catching in 4th in his BMW.
It's still going well for Heiko because he's still under 4 minutes. And anything under 4 minutes for cars of this balance of performance is actually hauling the mail quite a bit. And the gap at the front of the field, by the way, is down now to 5.5 seconds. The aerodynamics on Heiko Neumann's car will not be brilliant at the back of that car. The Ford Maytech in 5th position is the AM1 entry. That's the Eric Debard car, the number 20 Ford GT Maytech. And again, like the Callaway Corvettes, Ford weren't really sure about whether they should do it, and therefore customers were signed off to be able to produce the cars for racing. Well, we've got a couple of real characters down in the pit lane that we're going to go to in a moment or two, because we've got Joe Macari and Dario Franchitti standing by. We'll head down there in a moment, but we're keeping an eye on the battle for the lead, Andrew.
We had one very good performance by the Ford GT in the main Le Mans 24 Hours with the Robinson family.
Yep, won the class.
Yep.
But that wasn't a GT3 car.
No, that was before, no, that wasn't a GT3.
Yeah,
exactly.
that was one of the previous iterations.
It was the main GT car.
Yeah, that was husband and wife team, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Yeah, they did a superb job.
Just
David
remember,
Murray drove for them.
One essence of GT3 that needs to be pointed out: these are road cars that are made into racing cars. That was the reason behind GT3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a few times it's a bit sniffy. Oh dear, we've got a spinner coming. Oh, it doesn't quite complete a lap. Couldn't tell you which car it was that looped around. Was it one of the Maytechs? No, it wasn't.
No, that's
Jonathan Mitchell,
that's
who's
Jonathan
chasing.
Mitchell. That's
the second fastest lap of the race last time. He got the gap down to 5 seconds, and he suddenly, he's dropped 9 or 10 seconds and more.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Pushing too hard.
Yeah, easy, just lit up the back tyres, traction control on these cars. I did actually commentate for Nissan on the very first GT3 race at Silverstone. No Nissans here, actually, which is a bit of a disappointment, and no Bentleys either, but I'm sure they're out there. Right, Dario and Joe have done hair and makeup, as has Bruno, so let's hear from the 3 characters in the pit lane.
With Dario Franchitti and Joe Macari. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to see you, but unfortunately, if you are here, it's because the race is finished. Dario, what happened exactly?
There was an electrical problem, I think. It looked like there was a misfire or something when Joe got in the car. After the pit stop, he did one lap, and the speed was getting slower and slower and slower, so he brought it in, which was a shame because it was having good fun.
Joey, this weekend we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the creation of the GT3. Very important to say that GT3 is 20 years older. How do you explain the success of the GT3 class?
I mean, I remember when GT3 was born. This is really sad, I'm that old. And it was magnificent. From day one, GT3, people could understand it. It resembled the car that they could go and buy in the showroom. And I think it's fantastic to have it revival of this car again. And I think it just shows that the grids are nearly full for this car, where the other cars are struggling a little bit, because it is the future.
Thank you, Joey. Dario, if it's a shame, of course, because for you this morning the race is finished. Nevertheless, it's always magic to be at Le Mans.
Yeah, this is my second time here, sharing with Joe in the 458, but also the MC12 this evening, which I'm really looking forward to. To drive at Le Mans in the night last night was a very, very special thing for me. And then we're going to do the parade later on with the Gordon Murray cars and introduce the Le Mans GTR to Le Mans.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, and enjoy this weekend with Le Mans Classic legend.
Joe, massive classic car dealer in London and loves his racing. We see him a lot in the Le Mans Classic Series. Makes an excellent point there, gentlemen, that originally GT3s and then subsequently GT4s were built, they started lives as road cars. Even within the life of this plateau, the move, Bruce, to more specialist racing cars has already started to happen, to the point now where GT3 cars have never been a road car. They're built specifically as racing cars.
Yeah, but they are derived. That is the very essence. But effectively now, the contemporary GT4 cars are pretty much the pace the GT3 cars were in 2006. When that is the essence of racing. But you can't evolve your car. You can go to an Evo model when the manufacturer decrees. And one of the essences, as we've got Ford on Ferrari at Le Mans. Hold on, heard that before. That's Eric Debar being passed by who? Jerome Polincourt. That moves Jerome up to 5th place. Remember, that car started on pole. He put it on pole. Jean-Luc Beaubelique fell down to about 13th. But what he did, he pitted as early as possible to allow Jerome the maximum time. And Jerome, you know, he might run a really... No, he doesn't. It's not might. He runs a very, very successful racing team, not just in GT3. Of course, we see him in the World Endurance Championship as well. But he loves his racing. And that's going to be the story. He's leading the class. But, you know, my tip for victory, Jonathan Mitchell has blotted his copybook. He'd almost halved the lead. Ben Ritchie had time in hand. The clock is down only with 7 minutes remaining. So I don't think Jonathan's going to haul it back, which will frustrate him. But it's 2 races here at Le Mans. So, again, as you pointed out, Andrew, aggregate across the pair. Indeed, yes.
But Joe did the full race, the 24-hour, many years ago. Who did he do it with? Adrian Newey. Adrian ticked a box there. Yeah, I think they retired in the end. They were in a Ferrari. Yeah. So well connected. That massive showroom, Joe Macari's place, just off the South Circular Road in London. Yeah, just towards Wimbledon, a place called Earlsfield. And it, I remember when it had its original iteration, I thought that's a large garage. Nothing in comparison to the concrete and glass edifice they have now. Huge. And if you're very fortunate, and I've been down there a couple of times for various events, including originally we did the launch of the Hertz team called the Porsche there, and Joe took me round the workshops, and the workshops are even more exciting to me than the showroom. Right, out at the front of the field, Jonathan Mitchell is still pushing on that mid-blue 007 Aston Martin, but he's taking time out of the leader, but it's not going to be enough now with just probably this lap and one more to go. Yeah, the visual is there. Wait, the Ferrari will have come over the crest. He's going to pick off, looks like it's one of the slightly battered... well, no, it's not. It's a Ferrari yellow and black one that seems to be pulling off the circuit. Actually, looks like we've got someone who's limping and is about to pull off. But Jonathan Mitchell, all he can do is press on, try not to spin. Remember, it's 2 races here at Le Mans. He does have the pace. He's a person who does something with money in the City of London, but he is supreme in these and also Jaguar E-Type. So certainly Andrew and I have watched him over the years having great success. Oh dear, the old Fine Ran Racing McLaren with that fabulous livery is going nowhere fast. Ex-Rob Bath car, and a certain Bruno Senna raced this in period. Just a little correction. They're not aggregating these two. Oh, they're not? They're separate races. Okay, got you, thank you. So wherever in the world you are watching on the Peter Auto YouTube channel, live with no interruptions. We'll go through till lunchtime today, then we'll be back at around about just before 4 o'clock actually in the afternoon on the English feed, with all of the build-up to the 4 o'clock start. Classic time for Le Mans, 20 minutes before 4 later on today, and then we'll take you through to a little before 8 o'clock tonight, or 7:30 tonight, should I say. And then tomorrow back on the air at about the same time as we were this morning, bright and early, 9 o'clock Central European summertime, and going all the way through till about 3:30 in the afternoon. So stay with us for as much as you can. I know there's a lot of motorsport going on this weekend, but there will be far more excitement and far more variety than most of the other stuff that you could watch this weekend.
We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's go back down to the pit lane.
Andrew Jamison with, unfortunately, the 77 McLaren, which is stopped in the pit lane. The car was 20th position on the starting grid. What's happening?
Don't know. Managed to just go out. We had a bit of an oil pressure issue when I was driving it. And don't know, we topped up with oil. Don't know.
It's a shame because the performance was...
We're up to 6, so fantastic.
It's a shame because the car was good during the qualifying session.
It was brilliant. In the first stint, we were going through the field nicely, but that's life, I guess. Unfortunate.
Unfortunately. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Leader is on the last lap, I reckon. Coming down to the second chicane, the first chicane, the Daytona chicane now for the historic and race cars, Ferrari 458.
No surprises up there, really. The first round of this new Legend Series here in Europe, Paul Ricard in April, he was the clear winner. So he's got the speed, no question. I don't know his history really prior to that. GT racing in France mainly, I think.
Oh, yeah, no, the European Series, but mainly the French series. But the Ricci family, almost always with ASP, you know, they've done. They're just really invested in it. But
do you think it's the son of Jean-Louis Ricci who raced a lot?
No, of Maurice.
Oh, right, okay.
3:58.9 is the fastest lap of anyone. That was Jonathan Mitchell a couple of laps ago. He's lapping in the 4 minutes now. Dario and Alvaro Perrin also did sub 4 minute laps. Now, those of you who have watched racing round Le Mans for any period of time will know a GT lap sub 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Even in the GT1 days, that was considered pretty healthy. So that gives you the idea of how well these cars are going. So leader on the last lap now, coming back towards the Porsche curves.
Suddenly been a problem for Jonathan Mitchell. He was 14 seconds down in one sector alone. He's squandered 14 seconds, so he's about to be maybe overtaken by Heiko Neumann.
Yeah,
can't tell you what's happened. Didn't see what happened.
Through.
Has there been another rotation? Can't tell you.
Mercedes-Benz has gone through, back into second, 30 seconds away from the leader. They are in the AM2 category, so first, second, third and fourth are all AM2. Jerome Policont now only 9 seconds behind Peter Molsdale in that Barwell Z4. That's a battle for overall position, but not class position. Eric Debar in the Ford GT Maytech in 6th is leading, and
that's Pierre Hirschi's car that was having a rodeo ride earlier in the race, going through Tete Rouge.
Eric Debar in 6th leads the AM1 category as the leader with 12 seconds on the clock. The checkered flag, the first checkered flag of the weekend, is being readied. Well, what a brilliant start. We had some cracking racing in the early laps. A little bit of mechanical frailty from these earlier GT3 cars. But great racing, fast times, and we've got another race to come from the GT3 Revival as the clock has run down. And the first race of Le Mans Classic Legend ever here in 2026. The black and white checkered flag is waved for Ferrari. Ferrari wins at Le Mans. It's something we've been saying a lot in the last few years. And the historic and race car team will take the victory. A good comeback from Heiko Neumann after damage and a very slow entry. Lost a lot of time for the Team Motorpark. Mercedes-Benz SLS in second place. There he goes across the line. It'll be Jonathan Mitchell who comes home in third.
Not necessarily, because he's really, really slowing at the moment. He's dropped another. I thought he'd had a spin in the middle section. Nothing. He's squandered about 30 seconds on this lap alone. Maybe Peter Molsdale might come through. Second place. No, Mitchell makes it home in third. And then Molsdale in the Barwell Motorsport BMW will be coming home in fourth place. But I don't know what happened to Mitchell. Was it a puncture? I do not know.
I think he might have been short of fuel, Bruce, actually.
Well, possibility of that, yeah.
Here comes the BMW. The black and Blue Machine, and that is the 4th place AM2 runner waiting for Jerome. 4th place AM2 car. Jerome Policon will take Pro AM2.
He's in the background of the shot. He's catching, but not get to overhaul the BMW that took 4th place. Peter Molsdale beats Jerome Policon, but good aggregates. Remember, we heard from teammate Jean-Luc Beaubelique saying it's about the championship.
Of course,
he started on pole, dropped down, but 5th place, that's points in the bag.
And class winner. It's amazing how stock, actually, that 458 GT3, and that was the Evo. That doesn't look as much a race car as the current Ferrari Challenge cars do. It's incredible. Of course, that 458 was built to be a race car for the 499 rather built to be a race car for.
One thing we should have mentioned, the man who invented this series was in the race, Stefan Rattel.
Yeah.
He finished 18th.
Yeah, gone through and won his class.
Yeah.
In the AM1 class for Barwell in the DBR S9, the earlier version of the Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's worth explaining we've got 2 generations in each of the categories, AM and Pro-Am. If it says AM1, they're the older ones.
Correct.
AM2, I think, was 2013 onwards. But for Stefan, he loves these cars. He gets out as much as he can. He has a real stable. But an Aston Martin DBR 9, I think he'll have loved that. That was the one with the Luke Oil race livery. But he'll be racing again tomorrow afternoon.
Just looking for any other of the class winners. Stefan Rattel, AM1. Yeah. He won his class. Martin Vactor is listed as a class leader as well. Oh, no, he's not. Sorry, my apologies. 4th in his class.
Yeah, there are no Pro-Am 1 runners. We've got AM1, AM2,
yes,
and Pro-Am 2.
Yeah, no other early cars. Didn't see, and Lindsay Brewer had a problem early on, did ear lap, as did Jeff Smith. Didn't see Marcus Anderson, Frank Labichat or Michel Nouri in their cars. They didn't get to the starts, didn't get to the bottom of that. We'll try and find out in the meantime. However, it is a win for Ferrari ahead of Mercedes and Aston Martin in the overall. Bruno standing by down in the pit lane. I hope that's whetted your appetite for what we've got for you. Those cars out again throughout the weekend and absolutely doing what we expected of them in that first race of this Le Mans Classic Legend for 2026. Still some of the cars in the top 20 coming to the end of the race. This is Jeff Easlinghausen for Speed Motorsport, then Keith Fraser for Scott Speed coming across the line in the Lamborghini Gallardo. Philippe Gache for Sontlock Racing, still racing Audis. Yeah. Sontlock and Spark Motorsport Porsche to come through with Jean Legrasse. Here they come.
Yeah.
One thing I'd just like to point out, the very essence of GT3 racing is attracting as many manufacturers as you possibly can. How's this? 8 different manufacturers in the top 9 positions. Tick that box.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So let's head down to Bruno for some of the stories for that race, and then we'll give you the full results.
Et le plaisir, sincèrement, de retrouver Philippe Gache, qui voilà, était effectivement à l'arrivée. Philippe, ça fait vraiment très plaisir de vous retrouver au Mans. Tout d'abord, disons-le, la dernière fois que vous étiez venu ici, ça nous ramène à 2002, c'est cela ?
2002, c'est ça, il y a juste 24 ans.
Et alors, ça fait quoi de retrouver Le Mans à l'occasion évidemment de Le Mans Classic Legend et de la course du GT3 Revival?
Ça m'a fait vraiment plaisir. Je ne m'attendais pas à être ému à ce point, franchement. C'est peu une machine à remonter le temps. Quand j'ai pris la place hier, donc je n'avais pas mis les pieds ici depuis si longtemps, et j'avais l'impression que c'était hier. Et c'était génial. Ça m'a rappelé trop de souvenirs fantastiques.
Vous étiez avec Daniel Desbruer, en effet, avec une Audi R8. C'est comment ce genre de voiture à piloter sur ce circuit?
Alors il y a un côté un peu paradoxal pour moi, puisqu'il m'a fallu faire le Mans Classique pour conduire une voiture 10 ans plus moderne que ma dernière participation. Donc c'est génial, hein, c'est une auto sophistiquée, ça fait des temps proches de 4 minutes 0, donc c'est déjà un beau rythme pour rouler ici. Et puis, il y a beaucoup de bons pilotes, il y a un niveau compact, il y a de la bagarre. Je me suis vraiment régalé, quoi.
Vous êtes capable de me changer quelque chose là au niveau de votre programme de pilote à court terme, revenir davantage sur les circuits? Vous n'êtes jamais très très loin des pistes, mais ça peut changer quelque chose?
Non, ça donne envie de revenir, c'est sûr, parce que bon, on se rend compte qu'on y arrive encore et qu'on prend surtout autant de plaisir. Je dirais même plus de plaisir qu'avant, parce que moi, quand je participais au Mans, j'avais en charge de la conduite, mais aussi l'organisation de l'équipe, beaucoup de pression qui t'empêche souvent de prendre du plaisir. Là, tout ça, ça y est pas, il ne reste plus que le plaisir. Donc c'est vraiment sympa, quoi.
One word with you in English, Philippe Gache. It's good to see you back on the Le Mans racetrack this morning. Last time it was in 2002, quite a long time ago.
Yes, a long time ago, but it seems to be yesterday for me.
Merci beaucoup Philippe Gache, dont on rappellera d'ailleurs qu'il était aussi venu tourner le rôle de Michel Vaillant ou de Steve Warson à l'époque où effectivement le héros de bande dessinée a été porté au cinéma. Il en était.
Yeah, big French motorsport hero. Philippe Gache done Le Mans about 10 times. Did Paris-Dakar Rally a lot of times too.
Mad fool.
Yeah, absolutely. But, and also was a Formula 3000 competitor, if you remember.
Yeah, that's what...
I think he was a French Formula 4 champion about 40 years ago.
Well, that would have
here's the results anyway up on the screen.
Victory by 26 seconds. Remember, Jonathan Mitchell was closing in. One rotation lost him half the time he gained back, and then something on that final lap dropped him down to third behind Heiko Neumann. So unfortunate at the end, but really Benjamin Ricci ran very, very nicely indeed at the front of the field.
Our result said he had a co-driver, but that's not correct.
No, because Bobalik was sharing with Jerome Policon, so a bit of a mix-up. But Peter Molsdale, fourth place in his BMW. Jerome Policon, who shared with the pole starter Bobalik, coming home in fifth overall. Better of the Fords, Eric de Baar went very nicely to come home in sixth place, was gaining ground late on. Now, we had a few fallers and a few little clashes, but they'll all be back out again tomorrow. Remember, we started with 41 cars, which is really fantastic. And this modern iteration, Le Mans Classic Legends, this is for the more modern cars. And it has been a really good rolling start to that overall. But let us take a look back at the highlights of the first of the GT3 Revival races.
It's a beautiful day with a little bit of breeze coming in across the front straight, but not enough to talk about. Not even the F1 guys would be worried about that behind them at the moment. Taking downforce off the rear wings. Good to have your company wherever you are in the world here on the official Peter Auto YouTube channel. And we are setting up for a brilliant weekend on this new event. Le Mans Classic Legends. The Plateau 6 is the carryover from what we've seen at Le Mans before, but 7, 8, 9 and 10, plus the excitement of individual invitational races as well. And we've got some absolute crackers for you. We'll be celebrating 50 years of NASCAR with a couple of races that we've got for you today and tomorrow. Now, some very, very lucky people are lining up to go out on the supercar laps, Andrew.
Yeah, I think they've probably paid for this privilege, to be honest. But
still very, very lucky.
What an opportunity to come to a big event and be able to drive the racetrack. Now, the great thing about Le Mans, of course, is you can drive part of the racetrack any time of the day or year. But obviously here it's in full race mode, and everyone waving at our camera. They have to wear a crash helmet for this. I'm sure it's paced, Bruce, so nobody can go too fast. I mean, there was an occasion at Silverstone when they had something like this before. I think it was the Coys Historic Festival.
I've done this once on Le Mans test day.
Yes.
Aston Martin, Graham Tyler and I took a vantage out. I noticed that there was a Vuel that was sitting at the front of the field, which is an open top. It almost looks like a modern interpretation of a clubman's car or something like that, Bruce.
Well, you know, you get the stuff you expect. The Ferraris, the Porsches, the Aston Martins are plenty, but always, and one of the great beauties are the things that, it's unkind to call them oddities, the things you haven't seen before or you've only ever seen in a magazine maybe 10, 15 years ago. So for car fans with petrol coursing through their veins, if you're still allowed to say things like that, and I do, then, yeah, it's something always there to turn your head. Andrew?
Yeah, well, the French don't build that many sports cars. Obviously, you've got Alpines, but in Britain, we've got quite a lot of sports cars being built still. But there are some quirky little French manufacturers. Obviously, we've had Matra in the past with the little Matra jets. And, as I said, the Alpines, but there are 2 or 3 really small little manufacturers as well. And I saw something out there earlier. It was definitely French, and I had no idea what it was.
No, but that's the beauty. That's the beauty. It's like me coming here as a child and getting excited by seeing French cars I'd never seen in the UK. But
also, you know, these guys are lining up in the assembly area where our race cars will line up. And even that's a thrill, isn't it?
Yeah, they're sitting there. They've probably got the same butterflies in their stomachs, knowing they don't want to make a fool of themselves. They're very excited. But, of course, you can drive the circuit most of the year, but you can't drive it with no cars coming the opposite direction.
Well, that too. Good point. That guy's got... I saw a previous session. Before we started the racing, there was another session like this. But I think this is just all supercars. That was everything.
This is designated as the supercar, almost a parade, actually. I hope we get to see that Vuel again, because I think that is the only Mexican supercar. It runs on with a little 4-cylinder 2.3 engine, which I think is Ford-based for about 360 horsepower. It weighs absolutely nothing. I think it's under 700 kilos, and it'll do 250 kph with an open top car. That could be quite interesting. That's about
nice Alpha
60. Alphas still look like Alphas, don't they? That an 80, yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful looking car.
And
the 4-leaf clover badge, of course, on the back.
Quadrifoglio.
See, there we go, car spotters. This is car spotters.
We're off.
This is heaven, isn't car spotting?
996 with the fried egg headlights.
He's got his martini watch on, look.
Like it. 997.1 in the darker grey.
No one knows more about different Porsches than John Hindhaugh.
No, that is not true. No, Peter Mackay. I'm not even the best.
They're both having treatment for it. Right, Lamborghini. A couple of nights ago, one parked alongside us. We couldn't work out what it was. That enormous tail end, the V12, and we worked out it must be a Ventador LP 700, which will mean something to an awful lot of people. We had to go and look it up because LP is the ultimate performance version of each of the models.
We googled it. It was worth about £1 million.
There you go. And again, like John, like the GT3 RS, make it lightweight wherever possible.
Yeah. Well, Porsche have been brilliant down through the years for taking things off cars and charging you more for it, which is actually really rather clever when you think about it.
Early 90s GT3 911 RS, still one of the very, very best cars I have ever driven. Drove it on icy roads, which made it a little more interesting still.
I bet it did. I bet it did.
Would that be the 964 back in those days?
What year was that?
About 92.
Yes, it could be a 964 or 993. It
was the 964. I loved it. I thought it was much closer to the original shape, and I loved that accordingly. Right, McLaren's in all shapes.
Yeah,
and
this
sizes.
guy's got his tow hook on the front.
I think
he's going to finish up in the gravel and needs towing out.
I think you have to, actually. Or some of them don't have, actually. No. But obviously does a few track days. Another SLS Mercedes. These cars, that's the 6.3, the big engined car, sitting actually right behind our commentary booth. Another GT3 RS, another Ferrari. It's another 499, isn't it? I do like the rear three-quarter of the 499. I'm not a big mid-engine Ferrari fan, but I think they've really come back to form with the 499.
There's an Aston that's come from the UK, look.
Nice Vantage, early Vantage with the crystal rear lights.
I think that was on our crossing at the Eurotunnel. I think that was about 5 cars ahead of us.
Yeah.
360 did the launch of the 360 in the northeast up at Croft.
Now we're going winding the clock back a little bit.
Another RS, I think, that one, judging by the decals on it, with the scaffolding inside. Club Sport pack.
What we should say, John, is that we're seeing all these cars here, but in all around the infield of the Bugatti circuit, which is the shorter circuit here, it's just full of different car clubs. Porsche dominated, I think. There's more Porsches than anything else. But as I said, there's all sorts of. There'll be a group of Isa Griffos. There'll be a group of.
Well, how many Porsche Boxster Spiders have you ever seen before? And I think I've seen one or two. Jim Rawley used to own one in the States. There were 12 on our train crossing.
Oh, there's your little Brazilian car, whatever it was.
Right,
Mexican, was it?
The Mexican Vuel is the second car back with 700 kilos. So basically it weighs about as much as a week's shopping in a shopping trolley. And a four-cylinder engine.
How's it spelled?
VUHL.
I've never been aware of that.
Sounds like a type of breakfast cereal. There's one called Fuel, isn't there? So it must be pretty good.
Or an energy bar.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll need energy bars later.
Several.
But we're fine at the moment.
So all of these very fortunate car owners are heading out. They've all been, all of them have been given at least one plate to stick over their number plates.
They'll be going in their garage when they
Yes,
get home.
absolutely right. And why wouldn't you? 997.
In black, what do you think about Ferraris in black? I'm not sure about it.
I think that one's dark grey. I think that's allowed,
to
be honest.
Alter black.
A nice front engine Ferrari in a dark blue for me.
Yes.
550M manual. I was fortunate enough to drive one of those at Croft. I went doing that 360 launch actually. In that day, I ticked a lot of Ferrari boxes to the point where I've not driven one since. I drove there in a 356, 365. I drove a 550 manual. I drove an F40 and an F50, and then drove back in the front engine car.
What a day!
It's lovely.
What a day for you.
Yeah, what a day.
Golf colours. Everybody loves the golf colours.
Ultima?
Yeah, I think Ultimas seem to like golf colours.
They look well in it.
I go to a car meet near Brands Hatch, and about every 6 months they have a collection of Ultimas. And about 8 or 10 of them come along.
Where's that?
It is in Bruton.
Oh yeah.
There's a pub there. It's one of those breakfast meats. Bacon butty, and
there you go. There's an F40. Having a throttle cable on an F40 is actually not required because all you need is a switch.
Yeah.
There is no feathering of the throttle on that. The F50 was lovely. The F40 was like strapping yourself onto a firework and lighting the fuse.
When those were launched, I remember speaking to some very shocked journalists who got to try them. They went, you cannot let anybody out in those cars. You've got to be someone who's really about it. And as soon as the first reports came through, people were a little more prepared. But it was Ferrari going in an entirely different direction. And I really take my hat off to them. Everything that's followed has been, I would suggest, a refined version of the same. But I think that original savagery, there is the F40, absolutely works for me. And of course, in racing terms, I like to link Jean Alesi Ferrari F40.
Yeah.
That worked for me.
I think that's a Monaco plate on that car. Very nice.
It is, definitely.
I mean, it was the race car for the street, and just incredible piece of
But look
design.
how simple it looks. It's not, you know.
Well, and then look at the
all
Alpine
switched.
ahead of
Well,
it.
Yeah.
Actually, the modern version of the A110, which also looks right. Mid-engine, 1.8 Nissan engine in that car.
So
I think that's another Ultima coming through. They're
Yeah,
all following the BMW competition.
your Brazilian machine, it's a bit like a Renault Spider.
Yes, it is.
Remember we had a Renault Spider series,
Well,
didn't we?
Jason Plato
won it.
Who is now a team owner in British Touring Cars, that saved his career. That was his last roll of the dice, and he made the absolute best of a little Lotus in there as well, the silver car going through.
And then the famous story of Jason going to the Williams factory when they were going to do a Renault touring car team and basically doorstepping Frank.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what it takes to be a top racer.
The last Alpine A110 rolled off the production line this week. They're going electric. So that's the last internal combustion engine car rolled off it. I was, thanks to Alpine and Renault in the UK, I had one last year or the year before. Took it up to the borders to the Jim Clark Museum with
Wonderful.
Eve. And it was the perfect place to take it. It handled the A1 absolutely perfectly, but on the border roads around Kelso and Jedburgh, absolutely came into its own.
But Porsche are rolling back a bit from electric.
Absolutely.
And they're not alone in that.
Yeah.
Watch this space. We will see.
There's a place for electric.
Yeah, of course.
A man.
Milk floats.
There is
No,
a place
I'm
for
joking.
personal mobility. 20 years ago, Doug Feehan, who was long-time program manager for Corvette, electric is part of the solution. It's not the total solution.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
There's no single solution. That's why we have different cars. That's why we have a Porsche and an Ultima and a Lamborghini and a Lotus and a Nissan and a whatever, because people want choice and people do different things with their car.
Yeah.
Lovely Miami blue 997 going through there. Shea Adam would be all over that one. Well, this is lovely, isn't it?
I've driven Teslas, and the performance is impressive. And it's a different style of driving, John, isn't it? Because it brakes for you.
I was at, well, if you wanted to, yes. I was at the
If you wanted to, yes.
The official UK launch of a car I had a sneak preview of last year, which is the Mazda 6e, which is a full BEV, full battery, 5-door hatchback, and took it out into Snowdonia last week and had an absolute ball with the car. Really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful, cruisy, wafty car. Reminded me of my old XJ40 and X300 Jaguars, actually. And I can give a car no better right up than that, because it was lovely to drive. It made you want to drive smoothly. Bags of range. They've worked with the battery technology people and made it work. Very, very impressive indeed. Quick charging times. So there's a place for it. And I've even brought, I mean, Nürburgring and Spa this year, I came over in a Genesis electric and did a European run in a Genesis. And I think for long runs I need to have something that probably has a 3 in front of its range rather than 2. But I made it work, and it was supremely smooth.
Quiet.
Yeah, GV70 electrified. Actually suited, I thought it suited the car better than the 4-cylinder petrol engine version, which I'd had the year before. And there's no doubt that the performance figures would shame even if some fairly basic electric cars would match or better some of the supercars out here. But I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about cities and short journeys.
Just seen that shot in Tetra Rouge, remembering when they used to paint the trees white at the bottom and no Armco, of course.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, another one of the Alpines going through. We had the GT. It was lovely. It's like a carmine red GT4 Cayman there. Just going into the Dunlop. Did a track day in my 968 for charity a little while ago, some time ago on my 968 Sport, and there was an Alpine A110 there, and that car was rapid at Thruxton, absolutely rapid. Most cars feel rapid at Thruxton, just
Just seeing the shot of the Goodyear Bridge now, that famous bridge. I went to they refurbed it a few years ago, back in the Dunlop days. I remember that they actually had a ribbon cutting that I went to. Because Dunlop and Goodyear are now the same company, so...
Still the Dunlop chicane?
Still the Dunlop chicane.
That's the official...
we're talking about chicanes. Of course, we've now got a Daytona chicane here. Well, Daytona has a Le Mans chicane.
And the Daytona chicane is always the Daytona chicane. There were several years where it was a different sponsor, and they named the chicanes after different sponsors. But that first chicane now is always going to be Daytona. The Daytona script in the right typeset is painted on the pavement there.
Of course, we should. They're just going back on the Mulsanne Straight now. You should remember that originally, when I first started reporting races here, though it was just a straight run. The chicanes weren't there, and hardly any of the factories and commercial buildings were there either. And of course, famously, a car called a WM Peugeot managed to get to 400 kilometres an hour.
405 kilometres an hour.
It was never, ever going to finish the race. The turbo boost was turned up, but 400 kilometres.
That was a little Peugeot. Was that a Peugeot 4-cylinder engine with a big turbocharger?
I honestly can't remember.
It was for the glory of France. Roger Dorchy at the wheel. Yes. They knew they weren't going to win. They knew they were going to get the prize.
It was called Project 400.
Yeah. 400 the WM.
Yeah, which was Velter, wasn't it? It was Mrs. Velter who
Motors.
owned all the cars.
This is part of the magic, John, of Le Mans. Look, there's the road signs are still there, you know.
Which are there for the main race as well, by the way. We haven't just put those back in for the Supercar Run. I'm trying to see if there's anything else a little bit
eclectic
out there.
I'll tell you just one little thought. The first time I went down the Mulsanne Straight, I was coming down here with some friends, other journalists, and I said, we must be on the track soon. They said, we're on it now. And I went, are you kidding? But there was the barriers were one level lower. You don't really notice a two-level barrier. And I suddenly thought, oh.
My first year here in '89, Simon Morris, who we've all worked with, and I went out, Nissan GTR there. I went out to just beyond the kink, and there was no chicanes in those days. I borrowed a long lens for my film camera, and it was a film camera, Canon A1 in those days, and I think I had the motor drive on it. So I borrowed a big lens and stood just beyond the kink, and that was the last of the Group C cars, really, '89. And those cars were barreling towards you, and two-lane armcore. That's what's made me think of it. Elbows on the armcore, taking pictures. And after about a few cars went past, I turned round to Simon when there was a gap in the traffic, in the days when I wasn't in the booth for every single session. And I said to Simon, what are they pulling round here? And he went, 200 plus.
Two quick stories from me about that. I did much the same until a marshal came up and said, get your elbows off the top, because if someone hits that barrier further down, your arms will be ripped off. The other thing was, it was a session that was slightly damp when the cars went out, and on the very first lap through, one driver went flat through the kink, Johnny Dumfries. I then went back and I said, that was impressive on the first lap through. He said, wasn't everyone flat? I said, no one was flat for the entire session. You went from your outlap. Just amazing.
They were big cars as well.
They were huge cars.
And they looked big and they looked fast going through that area. And I remember saying to Simon, what happens if one of these blows a tyre or loses it? He said, well, the armcore will stop most of the cars. Well, that first dozen or 20 pictures that I took from that point were the only ones I took from there. I was back in the trees, about 2 sets of trees back, and shot the moody shots through the foliage at that point.
One little point, at the 24 hours, just a few weeks ago, it was 10 days after the fantastic new museum at Le Mans opened, and there's one room in there where they've got 3 cars, contemporary cars, and they've got a film show that's projected around 2 walls, And to start off, it's as though you're behind the trees on the Mulsanne Straight and the cars are flashing past. It's
wow.
an incredible stroboscopic effect. And then gradually it swings around and you end up in one of the cars. And then the rain starts coming down. It goes from light rain to aquaplaning rain. You must go. I mean, it's always been a must go, but it's been higgledy-piggledy in the past. But now it's got a phenomenal range of cars. And then you get to full sort of montages as well. It's outstanding.
Well, and it's now the French National Motorsport Museum. It's not just about Le Mans, so there's bikes and lorries and not just Le Mans. There's other forms of motorsport to celebrate the whole nation of French, which of course gave us Grand Prix racing here at Le Mans. Oh, is that a Donkervoort?
It's a Donker.
Yeah.
Donkervoort.
Yeah, Donkervoort.
A Dutch version of Lotus 7, really.
If you squint.
We've got we've got the famous father and son group at the Harts, David and Olivier Hart, huge supporters of classic car racing, and in the Le Mans series we see them often winning, and they're both racing here this weekend, and they have got a collection, and you go on their website, you can look at it, a collection of all the cars they have, and they're magnificent Ferraris, and one of those.
Oh, really?
Because it's Dutch.
It's Dutch.
They don't have a DAF of any description.
Really?
No. And
watching the De Roy brothers rallycross DAFs back in the day.
Well, trucks, yes.
Well, no, they did DAF 55s and
yeah, well, there was a lot of.
Well.
DAF did quite a lot of rallying, and the Variomatic transmission, the belt transmission, was for a season grafted onto the back of a Formula 3 car.
Was it?
Yeah, and Mike Beckwith raced it. It worked really well. And just to finish this, subsequently, Williams tried to copy it, and I have footage of secret testing with a Williams with a Variomatic transmission, and it was banned. It never got to race, and I don't think people ever saw the car in public. Well, I don't think it's very pretty, that.
Talking about the French automotive and motorsport industry, which is such an historic one. The Dutch have sort of dabbled in and out, and we were talking about the Spiker the other day as well. Here's the Vuel. Yeah. This is the Vuel. I've seen a few of these on the road. I think we saw one this morning without the rear wing. I think that's the 05R because it's got the rear wing on it, which is probably a little more tweaked even than the standard car.
We should go back to Spiker because we have a Spiker racing.
Yeah.
And Hans Hugenholtz is racing it as he did in period.
Exactly. So now I do.
This is the Dallara.
I love this Dallara. We saw one last year, someone in the paddock, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So we weren't quite sure what it was to start.
I've seen them quite a lot at Goodwood. In fact, next weekend is the Goodwood Festival Speed. We have the Supercar Run in that, and you cannot believe how many people are building supercars, and some makes that have long since disappeared being revived and stuff, but certainly the Dallara, when you look at the figures, the stats for that car, and then understand, here it is, it's the blue one there, the metallic blue car, the pedigree Dallara brings across 50 years of car design. Yeah. This does everything I think a supercar should do.
Well, and there is a car that is carbon fibre.
Yes.
That's a full
carbon fibre tub, yeah.
Now, the Vuel that we were looking at earlier on is extruded aluminium with carbon fibre body panels over the top. We are still seeing people building cars in different ways and getting it. It's all about adding lightness.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chapman. And that to me is really the future. That people who are engineering solutions into cars and little town battery-powered, electric-powered cars, adding a battery, adding an electric motor or motors adds weight. So wouldn't it be sensible to have lightweight aluminium chassis, carbon fibre chassis, city cars, if you're going to have, because you don't want the weight in the body, it has to be safe, it has to pass the crash test, but something like that would be quite cool, I think, with a battery engine.
I think the problem, John, is that carbon fibre is still expensive. I think that's defining. In fact, going back to
hemp. Yes, that a hemp now.
That's interesting because I know a guy who is an expert.
Fully organic.
Well, was
it Coventry University that was doing it?
Well, the new Lola T70 GT, I suspect.
T70S.
Yes, it's got hemp in the body.
There are all sorts of novel approaches to different answers.
Yeah, going back to the extruded,
which is what we should be doing in motorsport and automotive. Let's not write off the internal combustion engine, because there's ways of making it even more efficient, using more or less polluting fuels, and also we should be innovating still and pushing it forward. And that's what we need to do in motorsport.
Just going back to the extruded aluminium, remember those? I went round the Paynos factory when Danny Paynos was building those cars, and because Lotus did a very similar thing.
Yeah.
Remember the original Lotus Elan had a steel central spine with sort of basically 4 legs coming off it to hang the suspension on.
Aston Martin did that VH extruded aluminium with Norsk Hydro or whoever it was.
Yes.
And they based all their cars on it for a very, very long time.
Well, think about things like Di Tommaso Bangusta. That was the same sketch, that central spine.
But then talked about carbon tubs but going back 60 years, 70 years ago, the Lotus Elite was a fiberglass tub. It had strengthening in it. And cars like the Clan, do you remember the Clan?
Yeah. Clan Crusader built at Washington, County Durham.
Oh, it certainly was.
Which used an imp engine.
Imp engine in. My mate Andy Dawson finished second on the Manx Rally behind Roger Clark in the Clan Crusader. He's just had a huge operation. I know he's listening, so swift recovery, Andy.
My connection to that is I work for Washington Development Corporation.
Yeah.
And Usworth Hall was where we were based. Not in my time there, because Clan had long ceased to be. But when they were building cars in Washington County Durham, Washington CD, not Washington DC, the original Washington, where George Washington's family came from, they would allow them, when new roads were going in for housing estates and it was just the dolomite top, they would allow them to test the cars on the roads that had the top surface on.
Yeah.
Because you could do that in those days, because it was the Development Corporation, and it was Washington Development Corporation, of course, that brought Nissan to the UK and to the northeast of England, and I was there for that.
Yeah,
that was quite a time.
A bit of an aside to that, and Dario mentioned Gordon Murray. There's a big Gordon Murray display here, and it's not just his cars, his supercars he's building, but also there's a Brabham BT44 there. There's cars that he designed. But there's also the Cadenet that he worked on. Mm-hmm. This is the car that did the 200 miles an hour on the M4 in the sort of very early morning, and had between 2 junctions, had people either end.
Well, that.
But back in the day, AC Cobra was tested on the M1 when there was no speed limit.
Jack Sears.
When the round circle, white circle with the black band across it meant, as it still does in Germany,
unrestricted,
that it is unrestricted.
Yes.
It wasn't just national speed limit applies, is what it says in the British Highway Code now.
Before they had that limit on the before the 70 mile an hour limit, shows how old I am. I have done 160 miles an hour on the M1, but I was in the passenger seat of a most extraordinary Bizzarini Griffo.
Yes,
one of the ones with the rivets, you know.
Yeah, I remember your story of that.
Yeah.
It's very good. And that was completely legal, of course.
It was legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bridges went past pretty quick. It was the editor of Motoring News then, late Mike Twite. A very good driver, actually.
Well, that was really interesting. I enjoyed seeing some of the...
Yeah.
And we've seen a Vuel. There was 2 Vuels out there, because there was a dark red one, and I think that was the dark red one that we saw this morning as we were coming towards us. That we saw at the petrol station.
I really like that Dallara, actually. I think it looks.
I think it's a really
a great racing history from Dallara.
But it's also just the different ways about what is the aim of a supercar. It's not uniform. You want different styles of performance. And I just was quickly going into a Google rabbit hole. I was looking up small design agencies in the UK for a very long time. IAD. Phenomenal company back down on the south coast. A lot of great people work for them.
Yes, I remember them.
And then 2 brothers, Martin Longmore, who used to race in Formula 3, and his brother Chris, who did a bit of Formula Ford. I knew him. They went off and designed other things, and I was desperately trying to find a car that I stumbled across at Wilson, this great house outside Salisbury that Chris had designed. And again, lightweight, be enormous fun. And you think about cars like the Ariel Atom. In the UK, there are a lot of little companies that make cars, not just for track days, but if you do go on a track day, by golly, you'll have a huge hoot.
Well, and when you talk about supercars, what is a supercar?
Yeah.
Because that's an interesting, I mean, that's a whole program there. What is a supercar? Because you might say an A110 with a Nissan 1.8 engine sitting behind it. How can that be a supercar? Well, go and drive one.
Entirely.
Because it's so much fun. And then you might say, well, you know, something with a big V12 like a Lamborghini, that obviously. But then when do they become hypercars? And how far we've come down in an estate car and an M5 Touring that's got 718 horsepower, which, you know, would have more than held its own against any of those cars with three of us in, our luggage and a Labrador, quite frankly.
Where did you put Bonzo?
Yeah.
It's still in the boot.
Still in the car, but it's all right. He's got water and the windows have left open. The aircon's on.
I tell you what, people here at Le Mans are going to need a lot of hydration.
Oh, yes.
It's going to be 33 degrees air temperature today. That's a whisker under 100 Fahrenheit. And on Monday, it's going to be 37 for a lot of people's homeward journeys. So for those who are here, who are camping, who are here in legionary numbers, they're going to have to really plan their days to areas of shade. But there are plenty of places to eat and drink. All the car clubs are going to do, but you would have to break your day, I would suggest, into small chunks.
I agree.
With pit stops.
Well, even for us yesterday wandering around the paddock areas, it was, we need a bit of shade now. And I am a bit of a sun worshipper. I mean, the weatherman only has to stick the little sunny thing on the map, and I get a bit of a tan.
I'm a shade worshipper, and I thought I was beginning to get sunstroke when I was at the GT3 paddock, so I headed in.
The paddock, the GT paddock, is over half a mile away from where we are now, and I found it. You'll be a bit careful you didn't dehydrate.
So good morning.
The big wheel goes round. Lots of Porsche wheels will be going around very soon.
So
Porsche Classic Cup coming.
10 minutes before 11 Central European summer time. The sunshine heating up the surface of the 8.5 miles of historic track here at Le Mans for the first ever Le Mans Classic Legends. Got some Porsches coming out onto the circuit now, which includes some brilliant race cars. 3 GT1s and at least one Evo in there. There's a couple of early ones with the round headlights. Started with the 993 body shape, and then when the 996, the first of the air-cooled cars, came out, they changed the headlights because they unlocked a whole load of marketing capital for the look of the new car. Although the race car, of course, still had the old engine, Porsche Cayenne working as the camera car, and what looks like a Taycan, or this weekend actually, as Taylor Swift's been married, I hear, to Travis Kelce. Surely that's a Taycan at that point. 2 Evos there and 1 original car. And then basically the history of Porsche. Nice 968 Sport in Viola, which is a colour you don't often see those cars in. A couple of 993s. 997 in bright orange. So Porsche Club or Porsche display here of Porsche classic cars. But with the racing cars at the front, there is a 964 right at the front of there. 928 as well. We had a long chat about 928s. And Bruce and I have driven them. Bruce more and more different variants than I. The general consensus was the later the better for the V8 928.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I drove the initial one, and I think it was more car than I could handle at the time, let's be honest. But later on, the GTS I thought was fantastic. As a car that could take you in comfort, made a lovely sound, but you did have to understand how to use the horsepower and how not to hurl it into a corner. Smooth was best, I think, was the answer. But, you know,
it was a Grand Tourer in the actual sense of the word.
Absolutely so. And I've always got this element. Sorry, it's such an amazing shot of these. Think 1997. GT1 Porsches. And I mean, and think about what they were racing against. The Mercedes CLK, GT go through the nomenclature. It was an astonishing time. And GT Racing, did it take the right turn, the wrong turn? Doesn't matter. That's what was required. And these cars were far more than the sum of their parts.
Wasn't supposed to win. That wasn't the car that was meant to win. There was a Porsche open top prototype because the full prototypes were still racing in 1997. And there was a it was a bit of one of those transition years. It's happened in the past when, and Porsche, and we've got 917s coming later on. Porsche did it with the 907, 908s, and 909s, and the 917s. They had a crossover. In 1969, they spent over $7 million from the race the department in 1969 alone, because they effectively were running two different programs, and 97 was one of those years, and of course came through with the 911 GT1 as it was termed, and then the Evo. And I remember in the early years of the American Le Mans series, the champion cars running there and cleaning up, and then of course then it all kicked off and it all went stratospheric in terms of how much was needed to be invested.
Right, one thing I absolutely love, John, was just talking about that, is we're looking at these 911 GT1s from the late 1990s. Then there's the Evo version. So you go, oh, wow, amazing, thinking that. And then just tucked in behind are two early 911s. Bear in mind, the ones in front are iterations. Look, the red one and particularly the green Spider, the Targa top one, that is the model on which these racing cars were based.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Entirely so.
Yeah, if you go back to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, it must have a 993 there. Yes, oh, was that somebody locking up there?
It did appear to be at low speed.
Outstandingly well done into that. So the two 70s cars, then the front engine transaxle cars, the blue 993 on the inside is what that 911 GT was originally built on. And if you look at the round headlight car, which is the camera left car, driver's right car, that has the round headlights, and that's how it was originally launched. The other two cars are the Evo cars, which have got what's called the fried egg headlights, to the 996, which was the first water-cooled car, although they ran exactly the same drivetrain as the original in the race car. That little green Targa with the, I think that's even got the cookie cutter wheels on it as well. Oh no, it's not. It's got the Fuchs alloys. That's fine.
What do you call them? Cookie cutter wheels?
Yeah,
I've never heard that before.
There's the little sort of five.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, they're known as the cookie cutter wheels.
I mean, the history of Porsche and Le Mans is magic, and it's so enduring, isn't it? Although not quite so much this year. But 75 years ago, Porsche had their first class win here in the Le Mans 24 Hours.
And there has been a Porsche, at least one Porsche entered in Le Mans ever since.
Yes, and now the first overall victory will be with the Porsche 917. We're going to see a marvellous parade of about 6 Porsche 917s later in the day, I believe. And I saw them. They did have a little run yesterday and some great 917s there.
I wonder how they picked which ones to bring. There's been 8 iterations since 1962 of the Porsche 911, but ultimately it is a car. I was talking to Genesis's chief creative director, Luc Donkervolker, at Le Mans, and we were talking about classic car design, and he's got a couple of Porsches. He's got a very nice 9146 that he's going to road rally next year. It is one of the designs of cars that you could show somebody, and not only would they know it was a Porsche, they would know it was a Porsche 911.
The DNA has stayed through 30, 40 years, that roof line and just the sweep of the bodywork. Well, you might have got fatter, they might have got bigger, but
They've got
still
a lot
the DNA,
bigger, yes.
But still the DNA's there.
I've got a 992 and a 993. The 993 is the older car, bizarrely. Don't ask me to even try and explain that, because you can't. And when I sit in the older car, the 993, the air-cooled, which is a wide-body car like that one on the right-hand side, and you look forward, it is no stretch of the imagination at all to when I jump into the newer car and see the bulges of the wings, see the dashboard that is still the classic 5 clock dashboard or 7 clock dashboard, and even in the 968, which actually is the lowest of the cars. You sit lower down in the 68 than you do in the 993 or the 992. But even that, you've got a similar dashboard, and even though that's a front-engined car, you've still got a very similar view.
Yeah.
You know you're sitting in
A Porsche.
a Porsche. I think the 68, in fact all the transaxle cars, the 24s, the 44s and the 68s, I think they're criminally underappreciated. And probably if I was in a drive for my life, the 260 horsepower of the 3-litre 4-cylinder, at its time, the biggest 4-cylinder, biggest capacity 4-cylinder engine in a passenger.
Even that race car, you see the 911 roofline, don't you?
Oh yeah, well it had to be.
Just a shape.
That was the regs. The roofline and I think the outer door skins had to be the same. It used also the front subframe of the road car.
And when we get to the cars going out to compete in the first plateau, we'll have some 935s.
Right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
There's a
That's
Porsche
the
911
car.
underneath.
Yeah.
And the sort of classic front end, but we've got the bodywork extending at the back, and then you've eventually got the bluff nose of the full 935. They were Porsche 911s underneath, but they were. It was the first time they really began to change shape.
Yeah, well, they were built specially for IMSA, weren't they, John?
Yeah.
The 34.5s were.
The last one that was built, Safe Assam, who will see racing, has just acquired one.
Oh, has it?
And we'll be racing it here, yes.
964. That's Bruce's favourite.
Exactly, entirely so.
Now, the Porsche Classic Cup is coming up.
Oh,
we nearly always have a Porsche support race here, but they change the rules. So the Porsche support race last year was won by a 935. We won't have 935s in this. We will see them in a plateau now. But this will be an interesting race, and we've got Brits on the on the pole.
High kit car.
Yeah.
Cars,
Olaf Manthey.
Which you now, well, Manthey's been part of Porsche for quite some time. And you've always been able to get Manthey kits fitted by various Porsche dealers around the world. Just recently been announced that you will be able to order your Porsche 911 GT3, GT3 RS, GT3 RS Weissach with the Manthey kit from the factory.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect the factory warranty, so that'll tell you how good it is. And in fact, Tim Harvey's got ex-British touring car champion, has got a Manthey 992 that he got from, I think, Preston Porsche.
Here's our Porsches going out for the warming up lap.
I've got to say hello to everybody at High Wycombe Porsche who I know will be tuned in this weekend.
Well, they're Ferrari fans. They're Ferrari fans.
Yeah, well, we're gonna educate them now.
Yes. A different engineering philosophy, shall we say?
Well, I mean, but
same passion.
Both have a black prancing horse as their logo, and both have had 12-cylinder engines because there was a 12-cylinder Porsche engine. It is the Porsche Classic Cup. More 996s than you can throw a stick at here. And when we walked around yesterday, as the sun was shining, beating down on us, and we went through I think there's 27 cars coming out here. The majority of them are 996s. The joy, Bruce, was looking at the names of the original drivers and saying, oh, I remember, because we've commentated on pretty much all of these cars in periods.
Or whatever happened to.
Whatever happened to, yes. Well, there was quite a lot of that.
For a lot of them, it's their returning. A lot of drivers have had their racing career and they've dropped away, but historic racing is presenting the cars they either raced in period and they're just delighted to be back with, or they've gone off and they've done family things and it's time to come and play again. And you sort of go, what sort of car do I choose to race? But yes, it's amazing when you look back at the names on the side windows. And go, I completely forgot that driver raced a Porsche that year or whatever. But racing careers, they move left, they move right. Some go up, some go down. But, it's lovely to see these cars being given a second lease of life.
This will be a 45-minute race. Again, there will be a pit stop, 1 minute plus the vector, which I believe is 30 seconds here. It might be 31. So watch out for that. I don't think there's any pros or rams to confuse us here. No. We have on the pole my father and son team, Andrew and Mike Jordan, and they race together in a similar Daytona 24 Classic is very similar to this event, except there you race 4 times over the 24 hours because you've got less categories. And Andrew and Mike Jordan just squeaked a win in the top category last year because they won the first 2 races easily. On the first 3, in the 4th race they made a pit stop disastrously just as the rain came. They just yellow outfoxed them, and they had to make up a lap and to take the win. Well, they didn't have to win that race, but they had to unlap themselves, and they unlapped themselves on the last lap. So they had a lovely win there together, because obviously, you know, I've known Andrew since he was a sort of 10-year-old. Mike was the star of the BTCC for many years, and Andrew following his footsteps. And then they stepped away from the BTCC and become one of the most successful preparers of classic and historic race cars.
Yeah, very much.
With JRT, it's called. They're probably doing 10 or so cars here.
You'd think so. Now, a point you just made there, Andrew, actually is pressing. It's the fact that this is a very, very long lap, and if rain does come in, and certainly rain is needed here in France, but I don't think it's.
That was at Daytona, but there was rain there. But now the plan for them was that Mike would start the race with his younger son Bradley, who's not a well-known racing driver. Andrew would start the other car, and they would come in, and Mike would swap cars. So he would drive with both his sons. But I'm just looking. I caught up with Andrew yesterday, and by then they hadn't broke. I don't see the other car, the 33 car, on the list. So maybe they are back. That was the plan yesterday morning. Other British interest in this, particularly a guy you'll know well, Bruce Piers Maserati, of course, ran a couple of A1 teams, didn't he, back in the day?
Yeah, 20 plus years ago.
Is it that long ago, A1G?
Yeah, 2005 to 2009, 4 series, 36 races. I got paid for most of them.
Yeah.
I did what's that little circuit that's just by Venice that you go to, you fly into the airport. It's a tiny little place like a like a go-kart track, and it was meant to be El Bamba, and he got stolen because he needed to race, and won the weekend and got the big comedy check. And Maria de Vallota that's Super League.
That's Super.
That was Super League for them.
They made a fantastic noise, those Super League
They
cars.
did, yes.
I forgot what the motor was, but
I think it was a 3.5 litre lump of some sort.
And then they went to a Ferrari engine, didn't they?
A1GP went to Ferrari. Started with a Cosworth engine, and it was the most sensible move.
Yeah.
No.
It looked good to have that in the back, but it was because
it was a sports car engine.
Yeah, indeed. So Gibson very much involved in all of that, but. They made the wrong jump at that point, and the series did come to an end. But it provided great racing. It brought up some brilliant names, and you spent your time travelling with lots of drivers. Got to mix with each other. A lot of drivers became really, really firm friends. They wouldn't if it was in a natural team environment when you're stuck in your team motorhome, but they had to go and ride elephants and do all sorts of publicity stunts in various places, and it was a joy to see.
There was a lot of good things about A1GP, but no one going to make any money.
A lot of good ideas.
It was also quite nice if you were of a Northern Hemisphere hue to spend your winter months in places like Australia, New Zealand, South Africa or Indonesia. It wasn't a bad place to be.
So the grid then has Andrew Jordan in one of the slew of 996 GT3 Cup cars. So these were the Carrera Cup and Super Cup cars of their time, and there's everything from 1999 through to 2004-5 in that particular category. Then it's Henrik Bollersby, then the Ivan Reggiani Charles Kaufman car, then Piers Maserati, Maxime Herigold and Vincent Isavard, Patrick Lauber and Peter Obel. These are all still Cup cars, by the way. Down in let me see, Patrick Kolb of Lion Speed. He's in a 1996 993 Cup car. That should be nowhere near that. That's a completely different shape of car. Much narrower bodied. It'll be quick down the straights, I would think, that car. And he's sort of the interloper there. He'll be a class leader.
I wonder if Lion Speed are still celebrating because they won the Spa 24 hours.
Absolutely will be. They all look like, when I saw them the other day, they all looked like they were still coming down from the party. Mathieu Bastien, Luc Remy, Didier Van Straten, and that's just your top 12, and we're still in the Cup cars there. A couple of 993 Cup cars. There's a 964 Cup car further down.
Best of all, there's a 944 Turbo Cup
saw
car.
that.
Late 1980s. That'll be at the back of the tail, but there were great racing in that. Oh dear, one driver already about to enter the pit lane rather than start the race. But here we are, celebrating the Porsche Cup races from across the years. The Porsche Classic Cup about to go green.
The Jordan car is the one with the red and black and white on the front with the zip up the middle.
Oh, rather reminiscent of the first BAR with its joining of its two tobacco liveries.
Yes,
here we go, John. It's Porsche's, it's racing. I think you should take it away.
All right then, 45 minutes, no changing ends at half time. The flat sixes are released. What a way to welcome anyone who's just coming into the circuit. The very distinctive note of flat six engines, and the champion car not getting away too well further down the field. I think that's Ivo Van Riet, isn't it? Who was just struggling just a little bit in the 72, or was it the 73?
But it's the Dane who went into the lead.
Yeah.
Hendrick had success at the Nürburgring. He's been a class winner, I think, in the Nürburgring 24-hour in the AT category. And he's a good runner. Well, I suspect Andrew will overtake him on this lap. It should do. I'd expect it.
We were having a chuckle yesterday, Bruce, weren't we, looking at some of the other Porsches, not necessarily in this category, but so many drivers have come through Porsche Cup racing down through the years. Cup racing started with that 964 shaped car, and back in 1990 or something like that, they had the first Porsche Cup race. But some of the Porsche Junior drivers that have gone on, there's a car out there which we'll be talking about later on today that had the name of all of the Porsche Junior drivers that I remember coming across to the States in 99 and 2000. So that was somebody like Sasha Masson, who now runs their junior program for them, and Dumas and.
No, entirely. Yeah. But it's been a very good staple. But a Porsche, in fact, you have to say German manufacturers in particular, have been brilliant about having junior driver programs. I think BMW, the first ones that really got it rolling. Ford at the time were putting people in those Cologne Capris, and then it moved on from there. But Porsche, with its one-make series, have been arch proponents of this.
BMW as well, of course. With the
no, exactly. That's what I said. They kicked it off.
One part of the Porsche program, those young drivers had to learn the history of Porsche and their racing successes, and they were tested on it.
Uwe Brettel, I remember, ended up in the States actually, but you remember in Porsche Super Cup they ran the UPS junior car, the dark brown junior cars, and that's where a lot of those drivers were blooded.
And they keep finding them.
But also the good thing about particularly Porsche, they didn't just have them racing in Germany and Europe, they put them in the States. Now the Jordan car's fallen back from first to third, but doesn't mean the battling is any the less at the front. And this is wow, it's like the GT3 Revival race revisited again. Fantastic. The first 5 cars making the break at the head of the field, other drivers settling down, and 45 minutes of racing. So again, just get yourself comfortable and see where it's going to take you.
Just wonder if it's Mike Jordan starting.
I did think that might be the case. I'm just refreshing my timing screen to I mean, it's listed on our screen as Andrew Jordan, but quite often you don't get drivers. In the previous race this morning, the GT3, not everybody flicked their driver change switch over. The professionals like Jerome Policon did, because he spent the last 20 years shouting at his drivers to do that very thing. So sometimes it takes a half a lap or two until the driver getting on board has settled down and calmed down enough to do that job.
That trio seemed to have broken away a little bit from the rest of them. Piers Maserati in 4th place.
Yeah, these cars, despite the disparity in years of the cars, they don't change much within. So if it's a 996, which are all the cars at the front, whether it's 1999 or going up to 2005, I think is the spread of those cars, there won't be very much disparity. There'll have been some changes year on year. Normally it's to do with driver comfort and safety, but ultimately the engines haven't changed for a very long time. They went from 3.6 to 3.8, water-cooled to air-cooled. Obviously 996 has got the water-cooled cars, but it's been the 4-litre forever and a day. And indeed, the new 992s are still the 992.2, as they are called, are still the 4-litre, and they've, other than the Turbo Cup cars, which was something different, as Bruce was talking about, there's a couple of those 944 turbos in this field, they've been normally aspirated. There was 1 year of the 996s, I think, where they had ABS, and that disappeared again pretty quickly. But all of the new cars are ABS, and that reflects where the drivers who are honing their skills here are going to turn up. They're going to turn up in GT4, GT3 racing, so it makes sense to get them used to racing ABS systems. In the current era, Carrera Cup North America were the first ones to spec it on the 992.1. It was a ticky box option that you could have, and they went for it. But the 992.2s, as they are now, all have racing ABS, and they don't call them GT3 Cups anymore. It's just Cup, which is actually much more sensible.
Because in America they didn't call it; they called it GT Cup, didn't they?
Eventually, but it went Carrera Cup two iterations ago.
The big thing is Carrera Cups all around the world.
Correct.
Australian series. Obviously, you'd commentate on the Asian series. Different countries. France have a very successful Porsche Cup series. So we have a bit stopper here.
Yeah.
Number 74.
That's the Remy number 74. That's a champion liveried car, and
yeah,
lovely.
He usually races a Ligier, that chap.
That's a 993 Cup car from 1993. Let's go down to Vincent in the pit lane, enjoying the Flat 6 soundtrack this morning.
Dans cette pit lane du Mans Classic Legends avec cette épreuve Porsche Classic Cup, et malheureusement un concurrent qui n'a pas pris le départ, Patrick Lauber, la numéro 92, l'une des Porsche 996. Patrick, il s'est passé quoi?
Eh bien, à la sortie de la pré-grille, j'ai eu des problèmes de sélection de boîte de vitesse. Je n'arrivais pas à rentrer les rapports correctement, notamment la 5, et le moteur avait des problèmes de régime, de ratés, et il était donc impossible de faire une course de 45 minutes avec des vitesses élevées, avec une voiture qui fonctionne à 70% de ses possibilités.
Alors vous avez participé aux séances d'entraînement avec cette Porsche. Sur le circuit du Mans, c'est comment avec une Porsche 996 GT3 Cup?
Alors c'est très intéressant pour moi, c'est la première fois que je viens sur ce circuit. Donc on a un petit problème d'adaptation haute vitesse, même avec quelques séances de simulateur. J'étais très à l'aise en qualification et malheureusement mon aventure cette année s'arrête là. Il va falloir démonter pour voir ce qui s'est passé dans le moteur et revenir, parce que j'espérais bien faire au moins top 5.
Unfortunately, it's a retirement for Patrick Lauber, car number 92 with gearbox problems.
What a shame for Patrick Lauber there, because he was saying it was his first outing on this circuit, reckoned he'd get up into about 5th position. So, you know, we talk about these races, the aggregate across, but when you've got a 0 for your first attempt, I tell you what, this battle for second place, we look at Andrew Jordan or Mike, we don't know which, is right on the tail of the Danish racer, Henrik Bolleslev.
About 3 laps ago, 3 corners ago, he had a good
look at him.
Stab down the side and couldn't
Yeah,
make
but Piers Maserati is
he's joined the party.
In.
He has joined the party 20 years ago. He was a British GT champion. His son's just started racing.
Oh, man, that's going to stop his retirement,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I had that conversation with Nick Tandy, another Porsche driver, and of course Joe Tandy racing JTR, multiple British Carrera Cup champions.
And Formula Ford as well, of course.
Oh, well over 100 wins now in various bits and pieces.
Bolleslev's looking a little bit rattled there. He's taking a rather unusual line. He's being captain defensive, and unfortunately that's going to unravel for him, because the Jordan car surely is going to have a little look up into the Goodwood, under the Goodwood. Say it correctly, Bruce. Goodyear. I'm Goodwood next weekend.
Take that chip out, will you?
I know. I put it in too soon, but I'm trying.
It's gone down the inside. Didn't quite make it though.
I was trying not to say the Dunlop Bridge. I was working so hard. And then Piers Maserati almost getting a blow there. So 2, 3 and 4, second, third and fourth, all getting very close together. But Ivan Reggiani out front by a handful of seconds is suddenly going to be looking in his mirror going, this is rather good behind me, isn't it?
Yeah, he's benefiting from this scrap, isn't he?
Just watching to see where the Turbo Cup cars, that was the origin of Porsche Cup, was the 944 Cup and Turbo Cup. That goes all the way back to 1983. The 964 Carrera Cup started in 1990, and the first champion of that was Olaf Manthey.
And also the names in there, Peter Obendorfer, Harold Gross. I just remember those fantastic battles on the original Hockenheim circuit where they disappear off into the forest. They've got the 3 chicanes around the back, and then they'd burst into the stadium section. You never knew in which order, but it was my first, I suppose, real example of watching one-make racing that was so spectacular. And and then as we've seen in subsequent years, the Porsche Super Cup will get the next iteration first, then it will go to the national championships, most of which have been called the Carrera Cup over the years, but in Brazil they've always had it as the Brazilian GT3 series, but now, as we understand, it's a little bit confusing, but it's the same.
Funny enough, they are Brazilian Carrera Cup now, and they're supported at Le Mans this year. They
yes,
were
of course.
They were 24 hours. Porsche are very careful about handing out Carrera Cup status to various championships, and indeed the US series of Porsche Carrera Cup North America, that is a relatively new. That's only since 992s. Came in, so that's what 4 years ago, and they raced the new 992 Cup car before everybody else. Now this is getting a bit spicy again. This is still the battle for second, third, and fourth position, with Bollesley, Jordan, Maserati in that order. These cars tricky to drive, and I've heard it said. I'm just giggling actually, because I've just noticed that the exhaust outlets, the exhaust pipes on Andrew Jordan's car are a bit skew-whiff. Now, knowing how well the Jordans prepare their cars, that wouldn't have been like that when it rolled off the truck, so it's had a little tap from behind. These are not the easiest cars to drive, and I've heard very experienced drivers say that if you can drive a Porsche Cup car well, you can pretty much get into anything. And down through the years, there's been a number of VIP guest drivers who've jumped into these cars and not got on with it at all.
Absolutely.
I remember Alan Menu, who had just been British Touring Car Champion, jumping into the British Series and just shaking his head, couldn't get his head round it at all, and asked them for another race weekend because he didn't want to leave it the way he'd left it.
Classic case, and I think the classic comment, you always got classic comments from Eddie Irvine. Spoke to him after he drove one in the Porsche guest car at Imola. He said it's like driving a car with a caravan, and walked off. He wasn't too impressed, but he always would put a comment out that made you laugh.
There was caravan racing one a brief period.
A stock car racing still has.
Oh yeah, they still have
with caravans, absolutely. Yeah. So this battle with
sort of stabilised, hasn't it?
Ivan Reggiani is pulled out to about a second and a half. Or thereabouts. And then it's Henrik Bollersby, Andrew Jordan, Piers Maserati. Vincent Isavard is 10 seconds down the road, but isn't gaining on them. By the way, we were talking about lap times earlier on, 4 minutes. These are lapping in 4 minutes 22 on an 8.5 mile circuit. The current, I suspect if we had a current 992.2, car, that would be closer to 2 minutes. They are so close now to GT3 times. It's really impressive. So these are quick cars. They were quick cars in the time. They were difficult cars to drive with no ABS for any of these cars. Well, I would think that some of the 996s could have had it, but I would suspect that they didn't, because it wasn't. I remember asking Kelvin Burt, I drove one at Brands Hatch the 1 year that they had them on a Porsche tester, and I asked Kelvin Burt, who'd been the British champion the previous season, so what about this ABS thing? He went, don't ask me, I've never driven one with these, but everybody's telling me don't get into the ABS. And that was the very early days, because it was a road car derived system, whereas nowadays, of course, ABS has the technology has come on massively, driven by people like Bill Gibson, actually, who died recently with his electronics company. Everybody thinks of Gibson Motors and Zytec, but Continental bought his electronics company.
Yeah,
and
extraordinary man, Bill Gibson.
Oh, what a lovely bloke.
Wonderful guy, and sort of a bit under the radar, really. But you think of it coming here, and almost half the engines are being built in Derbyshire by Gibson. So they then also build complete race cars.
Oh yeah,
engine and car. There's Itex. We'll see one racing later.
Right, cars coming to the pit really a bit earlier than planned, but what I'm just keeping an
then.
eye on is the fact that even Reggiani, he was just under 4 seconds clear, not now, 2.5 seconds. So whereas we thought that battle for second place with Henrik Boleslev, Andrew Jordan, Piers Maserati was slowing them down, they are catching the race leader.
So there's something you wouldn't have seen in period, a pit stop and a change of driver in a Cup car.
Yeah, absolutely.
That number 69 car, Vincent Isavard, started that car, we believe.
Just going back to Bill Gibson briefly.
Excuse me, that was Patrick Persh who was in that car coming in.
Our old mate Johnny Molan has written a wonderful tribute to Bill Gibson
I've
on
read
the
that.
internet, yes.
Well, if we're talking about Carrera Cup cars, Johnny, I think, is still the only person in certainly British Carrera Cup to win every race.
He did.
Of the
that
year.
launched his career.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. And he did Super Cup as well. But
sort of saved his career in many ways. That was where he got people to back him, and then he went onto the global stage. But before that, Formula 3 and stuff, quick, but wasn't winning the titles, and money was running out.
He only had money to do the B, didn't he? But it was with Paul Stewart Racing. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll talk about Gibson. We'll see the Zytex racing later.
Yeah, it was one of our. It was the first ever inside story I did for Radio Le Mans. Went up there. John Manchester, who's recently retired, said he used to be a regular visitor to our commentary box, and said you should really come up, you know,
to Repton in Derbyshire.
Yeah, and I went up on my motorcycle. And it was meant to be a half an hour show, and it ended up being about 2 hour shows.
The big thing about Bill was that it was all the racing side, but as you mentioned, John, clever electronic side. I remember going up there and some electric truck he'd built well before people did.
Well, hybrid technology, they were massively ahead. Meanwhile, back with the Porsches, it's still a second and a half at the front of the field, and for all that racing, nothing much has changed at the front other than the heart rates of the drivers have gone up, and they've spent burned a bit more racing fuel and used a little bit more racing rubber. Now, meantime, down in the pit lane, we saw that car come into the pit lane. That was the Patrick Persh car. Julien Saunier has taken it over, so let's have a word with Patrick.
Depuis la pit lane, effectivement, de ce circuit des 24 heures du Mans, avec Patrick Persh à nos côtés. Alors Patrick, ce qui nous intéresse avec vous, c'est que c'était votre première fois sur le circuit des 24 heures. C'était comment, Patrick?
Oui, tout à fait. Effectivement, première expérience sur le Mans qui est juste incroyable. Et deuxième course en Cup, en Grand Prix. On a fait le Grand Prix de France avant. Donc c'était beaucoup de choses à assimiler. Le circuit, le départ groupé. C'est vrai que c'est, moi par contre, c'est exceptionnel.
Comment se comporte une Porsche Cup sur ce circuit? Facile, pas facile?
Ouais, c'est assez facile parce que d'abord c'est un circuit rapide, donc les appuis sont forts. Bon, après il y a les quelques freinages critiques où il faut vraiment pouvoir bien le décomposer, repartir tôt et garder l'appui pour qu'elle reste accrochée, parce que sinon si on est un peu léger, c'est là où ça part. Donc il ne faut pas avoir peur de mettre les gaz et de s'appuyer, mais c'est une voiture parfaite pour ça. Ouais. Et dans les Porsche S, bon, c'est là où on voit que c'est encore plus. Par contre, il faut avoir le cœur bien serré.
It was the first time for Patrick Persh with the car number 69 here on Le Mans circuit, the circuit of the 24 hours, and for him it was simply great.
I don't think you had to have understood French when Vincent asked him about the car, and particularly through the Porsche curves, to know how much he'd enjoyed it. And he said, is it easy or is it not easy? And he said, it's fast, is what he said. Never mind easy or not, it's fast. All about the balance of the car was effectively what he was saying there.
Yeah. So Reggiani leading.
Not much braking, he said. Yeah. Brilliant stuff.
Reggiani leading, a lot of experience in these cars, and success at the Nürburgring.
That's Dan Jakobsen behind the wheel of that car, Scandinavian driver in the 244. Now,
is that a car that raced in America, do you think?
Well, it is a colour scheme that I recognise, but I don't remember it being a Cup car.
No.
But that doesn't mean it wasn't. No. They weren't on the ELMS. They weren't on the ELMS circuit at that point. That's a 2003 car.
Now all this floor of concertinaed up, John, looking good now.
Oh, something.
Oh, a little straight coming off.
That was from the car ahead of the leaders, I think. That came off.
Why did it just fallen off?
The thing that you've got to be really careful about on all Porsche Cup cars, and particularly so on the 996s, but it's carried on down through the years, and it's the most, what you would think would be the most insignificant part of the car, but aerodynamically it's key. There's a little piece on the bottom of the front air dam that's normally just a little bit of rubber. You can normally barely see it because it's black, and it's an interference fit with two screws at the end. But if that goes, all your front aero is messed up and you burn your front tyres immediately. We've had it even in the newer cars recently. Just see it on the 89 there. It's the black bit that sticks out. And we've seen it on some of the new cars actually. The Ivo Breukers and the Red Camel Jordan.nl team racing this weekend round at the Nürburgring in the 12 hours today and tomorrow. They've had a couple of times where it's popped off when they've clipped a curb or grounded the car out, and they've basically had to come in straight away to replace it because it is such a key part. These cars were designed and homologated so tightly that there wasn't much for the teams to do. The aero adjustability, particularly in the early cars, was very, very limited, as was suspension. And therefore it really was down to the drivers, and that's why when people came through them, like Morlem and one or two others, your Timo Bernards, Sasha Masson, etc., etc. So we've got the 964, one of the early cars, both the 964s in at the same time from the start of what was then the Carrera Cup in 1990. That's why drivers made their names, because you could look at any Carrera Cup around the world and say who's doing well.
Yes. And of course, Porsche had a great scheme of bringing young drivers up. They had a shootout basically amongst a lot of youngsters.
Yeah, correct. Still happens. The young driver shootout, normally at the end of all of the Carrera Cup seasons around the world, sometime at end of October, beginning of November. We got the leaders in. Ivan Reggiani stayed out, but
that's Mike Jordan climbing out and Andrew climbing in, isn't it?
Well, Mike's done very well there.
You'd have loved that.
Yeah.
Drops his gloves on the ground, goes to check the car.
I remember Mike Jordan driving in British touring cars way back through the years in one of the, I think, 3 events where I commentated for Network TV in the UK when Ben wasn't doing it, and we used to have a link up between the drivers.
Yes.
And we were at Rockingham, which is a place that I knew very well because I'd worked there, and Mike was the man that we were talking to that weekend, and there'd been some bit of bumping and boring, and so there's a yellow flag, there's a safety car, so I'm on the thing. Hi Mike, this is John in the ITV booth. How you doing? Yeah, all right. I'm not happy with that bump. He said, I can't tell whether it's damaged or not. I said, hang on a minute. Can we have a look at the left rear of Mike's car? So I went, nah, it looks all right, mate. He says, are you looking at it now? I said, yeah, your team's looking at it as well. They'll give you a shout. He was great character, never changed a bit. And Andrew is a chip off the old block as well.
Raced a lot of it. Remember he raced those Euro cars, which was sort of NASCAR-y type things. Yeah, he was very successful in those. So successful in a lot of stuff, actually.
Well, we did ASCAR as well, of course.
ASCAR, yes.
At Rockingham. That was another project that I was involved with.
I think Michael Verges was one of the stars of that.
Michael Verges did. Jason Plato came in and raced for RML. Who was it? The French driver who raced for RML. Manassin, thank you.
Oh, hold on, Porsche.
Yeah.
There we are. Spot the 944 Turbo Cup car, white with the red flank. Clearly, in terms of performance, it's going to lose out, but great to have that. That was brilliant. Early days, toe in the water, one-make racing for Porsche.
That's where it all started.
Just lovely to have that bit of history out there.
Well, hopefully we'll get some words with Mike in a moment. And I wonder what happened with his plan to drive with his other son. It's obviously not happened. But
with Bradley, who's only just started really racing the last year or so.
Yeah. So these cars all now taking a little pit stop in the middle of the race. Still 20 minutes to go, by the way.
Yeah. So it should be a minute 30 seconds they're stationary.
And the idea for that is this is not meant to be a Formula One or a Le Mans 24-hour style pit stop, because you want to be able to have enough time. There's no fuel, no tyres, so it is literally taking time to get the driver settled in, get the 6-point harness fastened on, get everybody comfortable, because anybody who's had a 6-point harness that isn't in the right places, whether it's not on your shoulder or your hands device or your crotch straps aren't particularly well settled, you simply can't drive properly.
One thing I absolutely love, John, there is the fact we've still got the original drivers' names on the windscreen as they would have been. Christian Menzel's name is on the windscreen of the yellow and blue car that was started by Piers Maserati, got Elliot Mumford on board. And again, you think Menzel, you think Nico. No, that's more recent. Go back to Christian. He's about 10 years older, and he did very well. 2002, when this car was running, he was 5th in the German series. Now, I'm not technical, but there appears to be a door missing on this particular car, just so that we can't read the numbers. Danish driver Peter O'Bell on board. How did that happen? Where did that happen?
Well, this is the lightweight version.
Oh, yes. It's the equivalent of the BMW, which it was the BMW Z1 that had the doors that went down into sills.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
This is the Sterling Moss Monaco tribute. For those of you with very long memories, not a Porsche, I hasten to add, before you all write your names on postcards and send them in as irate from Maidstone.
Yeah, Reggiani is, I think he's trying the undercut or the overcut, whichever it is.
Well, he hasn't stopped
stayed
yet.
out, and he's still going quickly.
And Maxime Maricourt and Bastien Mathieu,
they haven't stopped.
They haven't stopped either. This is the second stop for the number 74 car. Now, I didn't see that one. This is the Luc Remy car that took over from Patrice earlier on. I didn't see that car earlier, and I would like to have seen the names on that car.
Yeah.
Actually, because again, I recognise the champion livery from that 1996 version of the 993. But that is before I went to the States, so I can't tell you who that was.
This is our leader, and I certainly don't recognise that livery. But it's a nice, I like it, the orange and the black, red and the white.
The thing is that there were so many around the world that, I mean, it is the biggest one-make series and the most successful one-make series ever. There are others now that can claim to be faster, etc. But down through the years, since it became Carrera Cup in 1990, they've turned out thousands of them.
Yeah, thousands.
Literally, it has become a business, and Porsche turned making race cars into something that you did and lost money on into an earner for them.
And strangely, all the fuel cells are made Milton Keynes by ATL. Interestingly, Andrew Jordan, I'm going to predict this, I think he's going to win this race, as fastest in the middle sector.
He's got 90 seconds
fastest
to make
up. in the third sector.
He's got 90 seconds to make up in 17 minutes. So that's going to be on 4 laps.
But the first two haven't stopped, have they? So
yes, good point.
It's the Danish guy that he's targeted.
Yes. So, and he's only 2 seconds.
Yeah, Henrik Boleslev. Yeah. Doesn't sound a very Danish name, but he's definitely Danish. And he runs a Porsche dealer in a place called Freiburg.
Nice.
So if you want to know where to buy your Porsche in Denmark,
you've still got all the bits from Porsche Classic.
Yeah.
The guys at Porsche Classic.
That's a great setup.
Oh, incredible. Their facility down at Stuttgart is a very clever design of typically it's Porsche, isn't it? So of course it's a very clever design, Porsche being an engineering company who just happened to end up building full cars. Their warehouse for Porsche Classic parts is a modular design, and the space for them to just keep adding as they add new model lines, new parts lines on. It's incredible, and their parts catalogues are glorious things. They're almost like coffee table books. So through goes the 996, which is our leader, still to stop. He's got a minute on Bastien Mathieu, who's in second, still to stop. Did you say it was a minute and a half?
Yeah, well, it's a minute plus a vector, which they say they think is 30 seconds. So we're going to measure it at 30, 31.
Right. So,
and of course, that is controlled by the driver. They're coming in, and obviously the team make sure you're stopped for a minute.
Yeah.
But the 30 seconds is made up of coming in and going out, and you've got to control that through the driver. This is getting very close indeed, and Andrew Jordan goes through.
He's done what his father Mike couldn't do. He's managed to get ahead of Henrik Boleslev. So cars rejoined in battle, but the changeover there.
And that is effectively the battle for the lead of the cars that haven't stopped.
Absolutely.
And Andrew is now a minute and 27 seconds behind the leader. So even a perfect stop by the leader, the likelihood is that Andrew will have gone through. And that doesn't even take into account Andrew's pace. I'm surprised that Reggiani has not pitted this time.
The window must be almost closed now.
Yes.
And
he's just pitting. He's pitting at the end of this lap. Right, okay. So he will do his pit stop, and that is a very lovely...
Different, that colour scheme, isn't it?
Yeah, that swoosh on the back end. There is a driver change going on. It won't be done at any space. There's no...
Redback Racing, Switzerland.
It's like Hop Swiss.
Kaufmann is getting in the car. It's not Wolfgang Kaufmann.
No.
It's Charles Kaufmann, you know, from the famous Luxembourgeois family.
Yeah. Make sure you get the straps over the hands device before you pull them down, because you can't do that when you're driving. It's impossible. Trust me. Outgoing driver helping and waiting for Andrew to come through. Bastien Mathieu is just dropping into the pits now. So both of the cars that hadn't stopped at the front of the field, the 996 from 1999 and the 2002 in Brumos Porsche colours, comes in now from Bastien Mathieu. Brumos, the name Brumos coming from the old Telex name of the old dealership.
Yes.
Which was
up in
Jacksonville, Florida. Fantastic museum they've built up there.
It's quite new, isn't that?
Yeah, I did the opening of that some years ago. Andrew Jordan's gone through into the lead with a 4 minutes 19.264, which is the fastest lap of the race.
Could be a very big weekend for Andrew Jordan, but we did mention earlier in the show the NASCAR race, which is coming up. Andrew is on pole position for that, and looks as if he's got a bit of a margin on the rest of the field.
He's got a bit of understeer in that car, though, as he turned in at the going down the hill towards the Forest S's, still called it that. And as he turned in there, he was just struggling. He looked like he just lifted off for a moment and went back on, and that tends to unsettle the rear end of the car a little bit. But Andrew will drive through that. He's 3 seconds to the good on Boleslev, who he passed earlier on. Piers Maserati, another 3 seconds or so, almost 4 seconds further back, but lapping quicker than the car ahead of him. It's one of the Porsche Driver Club cars. Is that the Van Riet car that is stationary? I think it is.
Yeah.
That's at Marshall Post 20, which is down towards Monsanto Corner. And
we've got a tracker, John, but I don't see it on there at the moment.
I think it's the Van Riet car. We'll see if that pops up on the screen.
Andrew Jordan just put in a fastest lap of the race, 4:19.264.
Absolutely.
But meanwhile, Vincent is queued up ready. and has got a gentleman down there. We're just going to hear from him now and get the latest from the pit lane.
Retour dans cette pit lane avec une belle histoire en fait dans cette compétition Porsche Classic Cup. Le monsieur à côté de moi, c'est Marc de Siebenthal. Marc de Siebenthal, dans les compétitions Le Mans Classic Series, il pilote une Porsche 908 en Classic Endurance Racing. C'est un excellent pilote. Et aujourd'hui, eh bien, en volant de la voiture, c'est Christine de Siebenthal. Ici, dans cette course Cup, c'est l'épouse de Marc. Alors, premièrement, Marc, l'expérience de votre épouse en compétition, elle est limitée, je pense.
Ouais, ça fait un moment qu'elle roule, comme Christine, ça fait plusieurs années quand même, donc elle a une certaine expérience, mais du Mans non, parce que c'est sa première participation, donc il y a des repères à prendre, et puis écoute, elle se débrouille bien, tout se passe bien.
Alors est-ce que monsieur est satisfait des performances de madame ici?
Oui, pour une première, je suis très content, parce que, écoute, elle prend du plaisir, l'auto malheureusement est un peu trop court des rapports, on manque de vitesse de pointe, mais elle compose, ça va, se débrouille bien.
Marc, après les essais, est-ce qu'elle était impressionnée par ce circuit des 24 heures?
Pas tant que ça, parce qu'elle a comme l'habitude la vitesse, mais elle adore. Alors, le tracé est magnifique, le Mans, c'est une piste exceptionnelle. L'endroit est superbe, c'est un lieu chargé d'histoire, à vrai dire. Non, c'est un grand privilège de participer à cette course de Car Cup, c'est superbe.
It's a family affair for Marc de Siebenthal. At the wheel of the car today, it's not Marc, but it's his wife, Christine.
And that was the black 72 Heathrow Henriette and Aston Yang. Aston, I think the Hong Kong driver had just taken that car over, and that car, I reckon, is stuck down. Oh, that's just come up on the screen now when I've worked it out myself. That's absolutely typical. That's down at Mulsanne Corner. Scrolling through everything that I could use there. Meantime, Andrew Jordan then pulling out a decent lead. He's got some 9 minutes to go, so that's a couple more laps. 4.5 seconds back to Boleslev. And then Piers Maserati took about a second out of him last time around. That's another fastest lap for Andrew, down into the 18s. 4:18.240 in that multicoloured number 10. That's an interesting colourway as well, actually. I must find out the background on that. Aquanova, is that a period? Periods.
I don't remember that, but that's no.
But I don't know what series the car came from. That's the thing. Is it a UK car? Is it a? And that's the thing. What's he got on the header rail of that car?
It's very distinctive, so it should sort of ring some bells. But
that's a Wolf Hensler car, apparently. It's got Hensler on it. So that's interesting. I need to find out the history of that car now.
Yeah, the Wolf was a great guy, wasn't he? The Wolferman called him. He raced a lot in the States in Porsche, did very well in the American Le Mans series.
Great lad.
A great character.
Well, as all of the young Porsche drivers, then you had Dumas, Sasha, we had all of those young drivers coming through. It was very impressive that they just had this production line that they seemed to carry on, and since then they've kept that going.
And drivers like Patrick Long, of course,
Patrick Long was
the archetype.
Yeah, and of course Earl Bamber came out of the series that you do, the Asian Porsche Cup.
Asian and
that's where
Australian.
He was first recognised,
Yeah.
although he was obviously from
racing at Shanghai this weekend.
Are they? Yeah.
The Asian Carrera Cup.
Yeah.
Just entered into a new sponsorship agreement for a title sponsor. The Jörg Bergmeister.
I feel a little embarrassed now because that livery, Aquanova Racing Team, second in the Porsche Supercar that year, 2003. Second for, I'm just trying to see who won that championship that year. Oh, certain Frank Stippler. He's come on, hasn't he?
Yeah. Back down to the pit lane. Vonson working the drivers here. Let's find out who he's with.
Vous le savez, dans ce genre de course, il y a une règle qui s'appelle la fenêtre de pit stop. On ouvre la fenêtre à un certain moment, on la referme et il faut que tous les concurrents rentrent dans cette fenêtre, sinon on est pénalisé. Ivan Reggiani, apparemment pour vous c'est un peu plus compliqué. Vous avez raté la fenêtre, pourquoi?
Nous avons raté les calculations pour le stop. Moi, j'ai regardé le temps sur comment dire, sur la voiture. Mais nous avons raté, je ne sais pas pour combien de secondes nous avons raté. C'est dommage.
Comment c'est le circuit du Mans avec une Porsche Cup, Ivan?
Pour moi, c'est la première fois ici. Je dois dire que c'est, comment dire en français, c'est émotionnant. C'est très joli. J'espère de retourner la prochaine année. Et avec un Porsche classique comme la 996, c'est très impégnatif à rouler. Et c'est beaucoup vite. Je ne pensais pas que c'était comme ça vite le circuit. C'est très joli.
He's the driver of the Porsche 996, but unfortunately he came in the pits outside the pit window. It means that it will receive a penalty in a few minutes.
We thought it was going to be tight. To be honest, I've got bad news as well for Gilles Boyer, the driver of the number 8 944 Turbo. That's one of the 1986 cars that started it all off in the early days of single manufacturer racing. He's been reported for speeding in the pit lane. Now it's out on the circuits with side-by-side typical Porsche Cup action, and that is Piers Maserati who's caught Charles Kaufman. Kaufman, who...
Other way round, actually,
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes,
Brumos car has stopped.
And the Brumos car has stopped. And I'm not entirely sure that's Piers Maserati. He was down to be sharing with Elliot Mumford, another British driver.
But Mumford's his normal sponsor, who's in the warehousing business or something. So I think maybe Maserati stayed in the car. But we'll see.
Yeah, never nail your colours to the mast. But what we can tell you is third has become fourth, and fourth has become third with the car started by Ivan Reggiani. But of course, they've got something hanging over them, including that potential penalty. But all the driver can do is press on. So Charles Kaufman making the moves to the white and orange and red car.
A 30-second penalty added to the 944 for speeding in the pit lane, and that 59 Bastien Mathieu car has stopped just coming out of the Daytona chicane. It's been covered at the moment by a yellow flag, a local yellow flag, as we are, we're probably on the last lap for the leader now for Andrew Jordan, I reckon.
Yeah.
4:18.2 last time around.
Great battle here. Andrew is continuing to pull away. Just last lap was his fastest lap of the race, and the gap now 7 seconds.
That's a very, very good exit indeed from the yellow and blue car as they continue to battle. Piers having a little look, or whoever's in that car, should we say. Not all of these cars have transponders.
That's a great shot, isn't it, looking down the straight?
And you can see the yellow flags. That's on the exit of the chicane. That's where the Brumos car is stranded on the right-hand side, and even through the heat haze, you can see that. What that shows, which we don't get normally, is just how much of a rise and fall coming out of Tertre Rouge, the Red Hill, down past the old Chinese restaurant and into the first chicane brace.
We tend to see that from the opposite direction, is the classic camera angle, which we're seeing now. You lose the cars behind the rise and they come up, but it's great to see it from the other direction.
But do you remember when Balestra made them the hump before you turn the Mulsanne?
Yeah.
Had made them lower the hump.
Yeah, that was after
that was
Mark Webber's incident.
Yeah, but the Mercedes were taking off in other places as well.
Well, Mark Webber went over twice that year, although Mercedes denied it.
And Dumbrack as well, of course.
Dumbrack was the one during the race, but Mark went over on the Thursday night, and then he went over in on that hump on the Mulsanne on morning warm-up, on the morning warm-up, and that was a portent of potential doom. But that was that was an interesting one, because they told a little porky there. They said it's only the one car and there were only the one chassis, and we know. And in fact, it wasn't, because Mark's car on Saturday wasn't Mark's car on Thursday. It's Mark's car on Thursday. It was a write-up, and they actually brought in under cover of darkness, as you could in those days, a different chassis and swapped the plates up.
What we're getting occasionally when you get a longer shot is the gap, the margin between the race leader, Andrew Jordan. Yeah, we're fairly sure this is on its final lap. So he's Indianapolis, next port of call is Arnage, but sitting on a margin of 7 and a bit seconds, driving smoothly, which is absolutely yes. So that lap we saw of Andrew, where you commented on the car just washing away at the front. I think that was him just pushing, and now he's relaxed. He's much smoother. He's made the gap. Nothing Henrik Boleslev can do. It is actually coming down a little between first and second, but the job is all but done for Andrew Jordan. Boleslev safe in second place. He's 10 seconds up on Charles Kaufman, who's just got ahead of Piers Maserati, or is it Elliot Mumford? But I think you're right. It does look as though Piers is the driver at the wheel. 49 years young and pressing on. Good to have Piers back at the cockpit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been
Did he
doing
try and run a race series recently for sort of electric scooters?
Electric scooters. Yep. Absolutely.
Don't know what happened about it, but
launched that.
I think that was involved with another driver, also from A1GP, involved in that, who was in the Team Lebanon car. And at the opening round of the first series, had a massive moment at Paddock Hill Bend that certainly was in every highlights package.
Likes his Ibiza holidays, does Piers Maserati. Bumps into my friend Martin Hall, or Mr. Ibiza as we call Hall.
All right, okay.
Quite a lot. No! That is the Ex-Menzel car. That is the number 25. Now, is that Piers? That's
the Hella Lighting sponsorship and smoke coming out of the back.
Meantime, the checkered flag is out, and Andrew Jordan wins by 5 seconds this Porsche Classic Cup race. The vast majority of 996 GT3 Cup cars, as they were called. Henrik Boleslev in second position. So Charles Kaufman will come through in third position, a lonely third position.
But there is the penalty coming their way for pitting outside the pit window.
Yeah, how much will that be? Because he's got a decent gap on Maxime Errico, who will be the next car through.
Yeah, because the Maserati car should have been crossing the line in fourth place, which would have become third. That has stopped. So Errico, it could be enough of a gap.
Michael Kurtler has just gone through as the first 964 Cup car, just ahead of Christophe Florin, the 15. That's a 993. But I think Patrick Kolb's got the 993 class sorted out. The 33 sits in 9th position. Still waiting for the next car to come through in the overall. We've got people coming down 12th, 13th and 14th who are not on the lead lap, although they've all put their fastest laps in on that last lap. So waiting for
that's Didier Van Straten on our screen, who is effectively across the line in 5th place. Errico's still waiting for him to come across the line in 4th place, which I don't think will become third. If it's a minute's penalty, I don't know for sure. Still looking for
it depends whether it's 30 seconds or a minute or a lap or whatever.
Well, the margin was nearly 90 seconds, so he should be safe, surely. But
so still waiting for 4th position, and here they come. That is the number 11 car coming through now for Maxime Errico. What will be the gap? That's the key.
Back in the pits with one of the winners of this Porsche Classic race, Mike Jordan. Mike, it was a nice race for you, the perfect race.
It was perfect. I mean, it was a bit of a dream coming here to race with my son, and I got an absolute dream to get on the podium with Andrew, and we were also got a 944 turbo here with my younger son Bradley, and unfortunately the engine went in that yesterday, so we got 50% of our target. But no, I just needed to keep it sort of nice and clean at the beginning and let Andrew do his stuff at the end.
Congratulations, Mike. And Andrew Jordan was at the wheel of the car. He will be on pole position for the first NASCAR race a little bit later in the day, so it's a great familiar affair by the Jordans.
As always, nothing but 100% given in the way they prepare their cars and race them. Maxime Errico was 92 seconds behind the 996, the Kaufman car. So now we wait to see what the penalty is assessed behind. Then it was the number 70. These are all 996, by the way. It was Didier Van Straten, then Julian Saulnier, then Dan Jacobsen, and then Patrick Kolb, 9th position in a 993 Cup car and a best lap time of 4:32. Don't think he's going to be overly disappointed with that. The aptly named Timothy Speed was in 9th position, which I think means Serge Pinetti will be promoted because Piers hasn't crossed the line, but he's the last guy on the lead lap. So Piers Maserati will finish up in 11th position. I don't think he'd be too happy about that. Wow, what a cracking race, and well done to the Jordans who win it by 5.1 seconds. That was Porsche Classic Cup at the Le Mans Classic Legends for 2026. So let's just confirm the results for you. 10 laps completed and a 5-second margin for the Jordans ahead of Henrik Boleslev. Dario, I don't think got in that car, though he's listed along it. It was Reggiani and Kaufman in third, and they both did drive. The Eric Old car, I think he was in on his own as well. Then Van Straten, Saulnier, Jakobsen. Patrick called the best of the 9.93s. Speed and Panetti for the top 10. So Maserati did just fall outside of the top 10. In the other classes, the 964 has the number 12 car, the Kurtler car ahead there. Who was second in that in the 64s? That was the Fiat car in 15th position. And the Battle of the Turbo Cup, that was 16th overall, actually, for the best of the 944s. That was the number 8 car. So well done to them on that. We've had a bit of a Porsche theme this morning, gentlemen. Plenty of them out in the supercars. Then we had that little parade, which included the Evos. We've got some more heritage cars still coming back around, the Classic Cup cars, rather, still coming round. And that was the winner in the Turbo Cup. These cars still making their way back through the Porsche curves, of course. How many times can we say Porsche this morning, Bruce?
A lot.
17. You've reached your limit. You'll have to stand back. Stand back from the microphone.
Clearly.
Do you know what? You'll have to buy one.
Yeah.
Or sell one, maybe.
Well, yes.
Or sell one.
Of the 4. Yeah. Well, one of them's not mine, so only 3 that are mine. Yes. Ran out of space for Porsches or any cars.
Right, again, these cars, the paddocks are dotted around the circuit, and the Porsche Classic Cup field, not coming in behind into
the old Maison Blanche.
Exactly. So
yeah.
they peel off. So in fact, I didn't make it down there yesterday. It was just simply too hot. But again, some lovely classic liveries as they go back through. It was lovely to see those, and the teams you sort of forget, like Tolimit or Tolimit, depending how you want to say that.
Yeah.
They were very much in the 4. That was one of the ones that unfortunately parked up. And that was the car Piers Maserati got out of.
He'll be gutted with that.
He will. He will indeed.
And yeah, to be that close. We stay with Porsches, gentlemen, because one of the defining images for most people at Le Mans is the Steve McQueen movie, shot during and after the race in 1970 and 1971. The film came out a bit longer. Shot 8.5 miles of film.
Yeah.
For that,
and,
which is exactly the length of the circuit.
And as you remember, John, I subsequently made a film about the making of the film, and some of that footage was lost. And ultimately, our researcher on the phone found it.
Incredible.
Under a sound stage, and by just charming a lady on the other end of the phone who you'd never met, Richard is just unbelievable bloke with that sort of stuff.
This was some of the stuff that never made the movie.
Yeah, well, it was everything, but it didn't have the sound with it, as it happens. But it was still owned by NBC or CBS, one of those, and they wanted money off us to transfer it, so we didn't have enough money to actually convert all the film into digital, but we converted the best bits. Anyway,
Porsche 978.
That's Dirty Dirk in that car. He says it on his crash helmet.
So the story of Porsche 917 is one as old as motorsport itself in terms of how it came into Bainbridge, because it was a changing of the guard in the regulations from Group 4 to Group 6, and the idea was that the Group 4 cars would go a little bit slower than the cars that the Group 6 cars rather would go a little bit slower than the Group 4s with the big engines, and Ford GTs were getting faster and faster. And so the SEO and the authorities decided that Group 6 would come in, but to have them you would have to build originally 50, and then they brought it down to 25 and have them available. And this was meant to make the cars more road going. Well, Porsche being Porsche, of course, decide, well, we'll build them. So they built, they had the 907 and 908 already. They kept that running, that particular program running. And in fact, at the first race that 917s were available, they tested in 1969 here at the Le Mans test, but didn't race. And then it was Spa. And actually, the car was quick enough to go on pole. But the drivers who had the car raced a 908 instead. And the 917 that raced actually didn't finish. So it was an inauspicious start. But to get them legal, Porsche built 6 cars and had the authorities come down and said, here's the 6 cars and here's all the bits for the rest of them. And the authorities went, no, that's not what we said, you've got to have 25. The race department was flat out, and they did not have the people to build them, and the homologation date was coming up. They brought people out of every part of the factory, people who worked in finance, in the previous iterations of 8RR, which were being called personnel in those days. And they assembled 25 cars and lined them up perfectly, very Porsche-like, very close together.
It's a stunning photo.
Yes.
It is, and it's the fact you've just explained the story about the effort that went into getting that done in time. But in many ways, it encapsulates everything to do with motor racing. There are periods in which the rules change, and the manufacturers, if they want to play, have to jump through hoops to get there. Porsche did that.
And what a lot of people didn't realise was the reason that they lined them up was not just for the photo, and not just to be a very Porsche-like and precise, it was to make sure that nobody from the people who were inspecting the cars could do anything other than pull them forward or push them back. You couldn't manoeuvre them. They all got first gear, they all went forward, but not very many of them actually could do much more than that. And in fact, of those 25 cars, only 10 ever went on to have a race. The others were disassembled and reassembled later on. They were called rather unkindly, I think, or maybe not. Maybe it was in honour. They were called secretary cars. There's a very exciting German word for that. But they were called the secretary cars. But of course, the Gulf was the John Wyer Gulf cars, because they'd spent so much money in '69 building and designing the cars and then running them in parallel with the existing 908s and 909s. They didn't have any money left, so somebody had to come in. So they gifted the car to John Wyer and said, right, there's the car, everything else is down to you.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a legend was born.
And he, of course, had the Golf sponsorship.
Correct.
4 Golf cars there, but at the front of the field, the fantastic hippie car, the Willie Cowson team car. Well, that was there. You see it at the front. That was being driven by Andy Prill from Halstead in Essex, big Porsche specialist. And look, because there's one car that isn't a 917, it's a 910 long tail. Yeah. Look, absolutely fantastic machine.
Well, the hippie car was one of a number of liveries that were Martini and Rosso.
Yes.
Including, of course, the Pink Pig, which Count Rossi declined to have the Martini and Rossi logo on the Pink Pig
but
earlier
he did put it on the hippie car.
It was on the hippie car.
When that hippie car arrived, it didn't have the green on. The green was added at the last minute after practice. It was purple and white. And
the early cars, you see the difference.
And I suppose we ought to talk about the all-green car.
Yeah.
David Piper, great British privateer, raced Ferraris. He's got 2 917s, still has them. He's in his 90s now. He just had a hip operation. He's back out of his wheelchair. Fantastic, isn't
good.
But that's a car he built out of genuine spare parts. So it's a bit of a parts bin special, that particular car.
Is that the spare chassis car?
Yes. Right. Now, the hippie car, I'm told it's a genuine hippie car. That
Bobby
the main bodywork was doctored around, and a part of the bodywork was actually used in a wind tunnel. But they had a spare set, and that is a spare set that's gone onto that car, Andy Prill tells me. So Andy looks after that car when it's over in the UK and is driving it here today. So great to see that. Patrick Peter, who founded this event, was driving that Porsche Longtail yesterday, because they had a little run yesterday. I noticed he's not in the car at the moment. So look at that. Sensational.
I'm pretty certain Bobby Rahal owned that.
I mean, these 917s, when they first came out, these 917s were very nervy to drive, and they were near close to dangerous.
Look at how the shape evolved down through the cars. There's a very early car at the back with the green front on. In fact, that might be chassis 1, which is owned by Porsche.
Yeah.
And if you look at that, that is very different to, for example, that David Piper car, which is in the green version of the Salzburg cars.
Yeah, but what we should say is the evolution continued into the Can-Am with an open-top version, where after McLaren dominated the Can-Am Series, 917 it had 1,100 horsepower. But I mean, I know one driver, a chap called Digby Martland, was going to drive one of these, and he thought at Le Mans, and he thought it's so dangerous he wouldn't drive. But because the first Porsche overall victory was Richard Atwood and Hans Hermann here in 1970. That was the first overall win by Porsche in this race. And Richard Atwood, that was a Porsche Austria car, and he on Salzburg, and Richard subsequently owned that car and later sold it.
If that white and green car with the number 1 on it is 001, that is the Geneva short car. That was the first car ever to be seen in public. It for a while had different bodywork on it. they're basically all the same underneath, and the bodywork is what changed down through them.
Yes, and the other thing is, if you see the front bodywork off, and then you look where the driver's ankles are. Yeah,
I was about to go there. The first time I didn't see these racing period. It was the photos when I was a child, but here at one time there were a handful of cars. They weren't competing. They were just here at Le Mans, and someone took the bodywork off, and I knew that the drivers, some drivers who would have been works drivers, walked away because they didn't consider them safe. The cars were very, very nervous to start with, and I went, oh my word, there's literally nothing around them, and their feet, my feet, being a long sort of bloke, would probably be out the front of the car. They're sitting so far forward, but when you looked how spindly the framework was around them, and it was filigree rather than body, it was extraordinary.
One name we should mention, Brian Redmond. Huge success with these 917s.
Well, he owned the Solar movie car for a while before Richard Atwood did, and then sold it on actually.
And again, we haven't crossed the bridge of the short tail and the long tail. Of course, for various purposes, you know, a lot of drivers would vote for one form, and the Porsche was actually rather keen for another for what they considered aerodynamic reasons, but people preferred the short tail because it was far more stable, or we could put it around less unstable, perhaps.
And this fantastic flat 12 engine sits there. It started at 4.5 litres, but it grew to 5.2.
And the reason it started at 4.5 litres was they basically, for that Group 6 changeover, they used the 2.25 litre flat 6 that was in the 908 and the 909.
Yeah.
And basically grafted two of them together with a crankshaft that had a division in the middle, and on that division was a gear that went up to drive the fan.
The fan,
sat on top of it. Incredible piece of engineering. It went out to 5 litres. They tested a 16, a flat 16 as well, which was a slightly longer wheelbase car. Work that one out. I think you can. Absolutely incredible what they did. It was the Metzger, Hans Metzger did the engine, and the Metzger engine was a staple of Porsche, and the Metzger engines in a variety, even up until there was Hans Metzger did the engines for the 911 Evos and things like that down through the years. And Vasek Polak, of course, in the US, drove it on as well. Alvin Springer, Norbert Singer, all of these names involved in Porsche down through the years.
If you're captivated by these cars, there are a couple of very good books out about 917s.
And I tell you what, the thing that for me is when I think about them racing circuits like the full Spa-Francorchamps circuit into the following, the neighbouring valley, Malmedy flashes by, Stavelot flashes by, all the climb back up past all the trees with an average lap time of, I think it was 151 miles an hour it was, average around that lap. Just think about that in 1971. Extraordinary.
Another great name connected with 917s, of course, Swiss driver Joe Siffert.
Yep.
And his son Philip, who did quite a lot of Formula Ford racing and stuff like that, does race one occasionally in our Le Mans series, and sometimes we get two. There's another car out there's owned by the mysterious, but not so mysterious these days, Mr. John and B.
Yes, indeed.
That he's out there in a car that he owns.
Yes, if ever you want to just understand the sort of cars that people would have decided if they're probably in their late 60s, Mr. John B would have been the boy looking over the fence, and he bought pretty much the cars that he'd watched in childhood, the Matra Formula One cars, and his array is astonishing. And he's often helped by Soil Ayri, top Formula 3000 racer in period, in driving them right the way up to the sort of end of Group C and the more modern Peugeots as well.
And we discovered at our last meeting what the B stood for, didn't we?
Yes.
Bruce?
It was the name of a town in France, wasn't it?
It was.
Bourgogne? I can't remember now.
No, and I can't remember.
No, we're hopeless. We are.
Oh, well done, you two.
John, it'll come back to us.
You launched
about 3
that.
o'clock tomorrow morning.
I was keeping quiet.
Yeah.
Launched into that with such...
and then threw it to me. Talk about the hospital pass.
I know, that was cruel, wasn't it?
So
not Bresson-Cock. It'll come.
So when John Wyer was running the Gulf cars in 1970, having been handed those, Ferdinand Pietsch, who was the grandson of Ferdinand Porsche, decided they were going to continue to run cars as well. So when we talk about the Salzburg livery, that was his local town, that was his local area. And so that green and white car, if you think of that in red and white, that's what we think of as the original Salzburg livery, and that was the livery of the car that won Le Mans in 1970. So there were still works cars out there. There was a number of different bodywork. The Salzburg car has one set of bodywork on it. The 22 that sits in behind it has got the little monkey seat adjustable wing in between the two backs, where the green one, it's straight across, I think. Well, actually, that might have that as well. But the two, the K's and the L's, K was Kurtz for short, L was Lang for Langheg, long tail. And they started off as the same. They became two different models, actually, towards the end of the model run. There was a one with adjustable wheelbase that Vic Elford, but that was a Can-Am car. Yeah. So the Can-Am cars were tended to be 917 30s.
30s,
so that's where they come in.
Yeah.
So that was there were 25 chassis numbers set aside because of that 25 original cars, and some of them have had, shall we say, checkered. Some of the numbers, chassis numbers, have had checkered pasts, and some of them are lost in the mists of time as well. The engines are, I mean, that little number 12, that is gorgeous. That's a 10, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that again, that's where the part of the engine that 8, 9s and 10s, they were racing at the same time, and very different shape. But the early 917s really borrowed from that more swoopy shape before they got to that wedge shape that we know so well. And it is a car that has just become ingrained, particularly, Bruce, in those John Wyer automotive, the Gulf colours of the Etruscan orange and sky blue.
Yeah. With all of this, what you have to understand, I was talking about the flux and change in the rule book that through the history of sports car racing, but bear in mind that Porsche would also be entering events like the Targa Florio and thing, and that wasn't the happy hunting ground at the time for cars like these. You needed a shorter wheelbase, more nimble car, and so they spread their types of cars across the races they needed to go and compete in. And so don't just think 1970, 71, it was only Porsche 917s for Porsche. They were the 908 03s and other things that were competing with a shorter wheelbase.
Oh, the Flunder, yes.
Exactly.
You mentioned John Wyer, who obviously ran GT40s and the Mirage, a great team owner, JW Automotive. He was famous for the death ray look if you made a mistake. And a wonderful friend of mine, Mike Hailwood, who's also a great bike racer, a lot of people will have heard of him, managed to crash one at Le Mans quite early in the race that he was sharing with David Hobbs, and he very definitely he didn't get spoken to, he just got looked at.
That was worse.
He'll never forgot it.
So in 1969, if you had gone to the Geneva Motor Show to buy a Group 4 917, and they did eventually get homologated as a full prototype in the Group 4 because they'd built enough of them, it would have cost you $35,000 back in those days if you'd wandered onto the Porsche Motorsports stand, which was about £14,500 at the time. Now, adjusted for inflation, I'm not sure what that is, but it's probably about, let me say, 1.4. That's going to be, it's still not going to be a lot of money. But that was a lot of money in those days, in 1969.
There is a chap in Monaco who does race a 9117 with us sometimes. It's actually the Japanese-owned car that's out there.
Yep.
And he has got a car which he admits is a parts bin special, but he drives it on the road in Monaco. It's road registered.
Claudio Rodaro is the man.
Yeah.
Right, we've got this far in, and I just want to put one name out there. For a lot of people, when they think the Porsche 917, one name springs forward for the ultimate drive. Pedro Rodriguez.
Oh.
He shared the title-winning car in 1970 with Leo Kinnunen, and then he took the title alone, again for John Wyer Automotive Engineering. Victories in 71 in Daytona, Monza, Spa, Österreichring, and just most astonishing performance.
And the fantastic drive at Brands Hatch.
The drive at Brands Hatch, of course, as well.
Where the famous clerk of the course, Nick Syret, brought him in because he'd done something wrong, and he went a lot quicker afterwards.
And in fact, at the 70 Spa race, which was on the old Spa circuit, the qualifying time and indeed the race average time was faster than the contemporary Formula One on the same circuit.
Yeah, which would make sense. You look at the aerodynamics of the car and that engine in the back, but it's still quite a thought. And again, it's the flux between the various championships which are seen as the pinnacle.
In 69, they hit 236 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight, 585 horsepower in those cars, which were under 1,000 kilos. There was a couple of different versions of the engines, and as I say, the swoopiness sort of disappeared a little bit. There was some thought that Porsche wouldn't be here at Le Mans for the 24-hour race in 69 because they'd overspent their race budget so much, which was incredible when you think about it. The bright yellow car leading them off at the start, and of course the tragedy of John Wolfe, 69, on the first lap.
Well, that was the car that Dietmar Martland, I mentioned, refused to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. Died on the first lap. The car went over. A part of Le Mans history, a part of endurance racing history, not just Porsche, but the 917, which has become as mythic as the 24 hours itself, and celebrated here at Le Mans Classic Legends for 2026. Thanks for joining us. Just about at the end of our morning session.
We're up to the group races, if we call them that.
Yes.
This afternoon, we've got some great racing. We're going to start with the Plateau 6, which is the plateau that's carried over from last year, and I think we've got a great racing prospect there, with several cars with Ford DFE.
Yeah,
one engine will derive from the Ford DFE1 engines, and that should have got an ex-Formula 1 driver in that, in Jan Magnussen, although he's in a
less powerful car.
Similar chassis, but a less powered car. There's lots of terrific cars of the 1970s, but also in that another iconic Porsche model, the 935, of course.
935.
They're in that Plateau 6 as well, and
1972 to 1984, the oldest cars we will have in this. And if you're just joining us, Le Mans Classic obviously goes way back to the 50s. No, not this time. This is
1923.
Well, 1923.
Yeah. Sorry, of course you are. But I'm thinking about the bulk of the field. But the decision this year to have the Le Mans Classic Legends is where we're at. These are the more modern iteration. We're really looking forward to those after lunchtime.
And by the way, if you are thinking, where are those 20s, 30s and 40s cars? Next year. Remember, Le Mans Classic used to be once every 2 years.
Yes.
So basically, this is the extra event. So the cars that we saw last year, with the exception of that Plateau number 6, which we'll have this year, they'll all be back next year with some other guest championships and series and races as well. So we reconvene here next year. You do not have to wait an extra year. This is the additional event, and we've brought in some cars. Actually, if you look at the regulations for GT3, then you could probably get away with something all the way up to 2013 or 14 with the Evos. I hope you've enjoyed the morning. Don't go too far away. We reconvene this afternoon for some excellent racing, and make sure you stay with us on the official YouTube channel of Peter Auto and Le Mans Classic Legend 2026 from Bruce Jones, Andrew Marriott and John Hindhaugh. For the moment, thanks for being with us. Have a good lunch.